Some sounds pierce deeper than claws. Some cries reach further than howls. And some truths are buried so deep in the soul that even kings forget they're bleeding. The Alpha King heard her crying long before he saw her. It wasn't the sound that stopped him. It was the way she cried. Quiet. Broken. Like someone who had learned that screaming changed nothing. Roman stood at the edge of the Bloodridge Pack's northern border, his massive frame silhouetted against the moon, breath misting in the frozen air. His wolf stirred beneath his skin, restless and suspicious. The beast didn't like the forbidden woods. No one did. The trees there grew too close, their roots twisted with old magic, their branches clawed at the sky like skeletal fingers. And yet the crying came from deep within them. Turn back, his rational mind urged. Omegas who cross the borders are usually guilty of something. Theft. Treason. Weakness. But Roman had learned long ago not to trust his rational mind. Not after the gaps. Not after the 3 moons he couldn't remember, 3 moons that had been surgically removed from his memory by the Moon Council, leaving only a hollow ache where something vital should have been. He tilted his head, listening. The crying hitched. A soft, desperate gasp. Then a whisper, so faint it should have been swallowed by the wind. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, little one. Please, please don't leave me. His wolf lunged forward inside him, sudden and violent, nearly tearing through his skin. Roman's claws extended before he could stop them. His canines sharpened. His vision blood gold. What the hell? His wolf had never reacted like this. Not to a stranger. Not to an Omega. He should have turned around. He was the Alpha King. He had a council meeting at dawn. He had a kingdom to protect. He had enemies circling like vultures, waiting for him to show weakness. But his legs moved anyway, and Roman followed the sound of her grief into the dark. The snow was deeper here. It swallowed his boots to the ankle, muffling his steps as he moved between the trees. The crying grew louder, more raw, and with it came a scent. Roman froze. No, it couldn't be. The scent was wrong. Layered. Distorted. Like someone had tried to bury it beneath ash and wolfsbane, and something sharper, magic, old and deliberate. But underneath it all, vanilla, rain, wild sage. His chest constricted. He knew that scent. He knew it. But that was impossible. He didn't know any Omegas. He had never taken a mate. The Moon Council had decided years ago that his bloodline was too dangerous to pass on, that his rule was too important to be distracted by the vulnerabilities of a bond. And yet his wolf was clawing at his ribcage, howling a name he couldn't remember. Roman pushed through the last cluster of trees and stopped breathing. She knelt in a clearing, half collapsed in the snow, her body trembling violently. Her clothes were torn, soaked through with blood and frost. Her dark hair clung to her face in wet tangles. And in her arms, wrapped in a threadbare blanket, was a baby. A newborn. The Omega's head was bowed, her lips moving in a frantic, broken whisper. Stay with me. Please, stay with me. I'll keep you warm. I'll fix this. I swear I'll fix this. But the baby wasn't crying. It wasn't moving. Roman's heart slammed against his ribs. The woman didn't notice him. She was too focused on the child, rocking it gently, desperately, her tears freezing on her cheeks. You're stronger than they said, she whispered, voice cracking. You have to be. You're his. You're. Her words cut off as her body convulsed, a violent shudder that nearly sent her sprawling into the snow. Roman moved without thinking. He crossed the clearing in 3 strides, his hand catching her shoulder before she collapsed completely. She gasped a sharp, broken sound, and her head snapped up. Their eyes met, and the world shattered. Her eyes were silver. Not the pale gray of a common wolf. Not the soft shine of moonlight. Silver. Pure, burning, impossible silver. And they were full of recognition. She knew him. She knew him. No, she breathed, and the word was a sob. No, no, no. She tried to pull away, clutching the baby tighter to her chest, but her body betrayed her. She was too weak, too cold, too broken. Roman's hand remained on her shoulder, his grip firm but not cruel. Who are you? His voice came out rougher than he intended, more wolf than man. She shook her head violently, fresh tears spilling down her face. You have to leave. Please. Please, Roman, just go. His wolf roared. She'd said his name. Not Alpha King. Not Your Majesty. Roman. Like she'd said it 1,000 times before. Like it was the only name that mattered. How do you know my name? He demanded, his claws digging into her shoulder, not enough to hurt, but enough to anchor her. Who are you? It doesn't matter, she choked out, trembling harder now. You don't remember. You can't remember. If you do, if the bond. What bond? Her breath hitched. She looked at him with such raw, devastating pain that it felt like a blade between his ribs. The one they took from you, she whispered. Roman's blood turned to ice. What did you just say? She didn't answer. Instead, she looked down at the baby in her arms, and her expression crumbled. She's not breathing right, she whispered. She's too cold. I tried to keep her warm, but Roman's gaze dropped to the infant. The baby was tiny, pale, her little chest rising and falling in shallow, uneven gasps. But there was something else. Something that made every instinct in his body scream. The baby's scent. It was faint, so faint it was almost invisible beneath the Omega's layered, distorted scent. But it was there. His scent. Old. Primal. Unmistakable. Roman's world tilted. That's not possible, he said, his voice barely a whisper. The Omega let out a broken laugh, bitter and hollow. No, it's not. She looked up at him again, and this time there was no hope in her silver eyes. Only resignation. You want the truth, Roman? She said softly. Here it is. She pulled back the edge of her torn sleeve, revealing her shoulder. And there, scarred and faded but unmistakable, was a mark. His mark. The crescent moon bite of an alpha king claiming his mate. Not fresh. Not new. Old. Roman staggered back, his mind fracturing. When how? 3 years ago, she whispered. During the lunar eclipse. When the Moon Council brought you to the sacred grove and took your memories. His chest heaved. That's impossible. I was alone that night. The council said. The council lied. Her voice was quiet. Steady. Devastated. You marked me, Roman. You chose me. And then they made you forget. The baby in her arms let out a weak, breathless cry, and the Omega's tears came faster. And this. Roman's voice cracked as he stared at the infant. This child. She's yours. The words hung in the frozen air like a death sentence. Roman's wolf howled, feral and furious, clawing at the walls of his mind. His daughter. He had a daughter. And he didn't remember. Why? He demanded, his voice shaking. Why would they do this? Why would they take you from me? The Omega closed her eyes, and when she spoke, her voice was hollow. Because she's not just your daughter, Roman. She looked up at him, and the grief in her gaze was unbearable. She's the heir to the true Alpha bloodline. The one prophesied to end your reign. Roman's heart stopped. The council knew, she continued, her voice breaking. They knew that if you remembered me, if the bond awakened, you'd have to choose. Her tears fell onto the baby's face. Kill your own child to keep your crown. She looked at him, silver eyes full of a pain he couldn't name. Or let me destroy everything you are. And Roman realized, with a cold, creeping horror, that she wasn't begging him to save her. She was begging him to walk away. What would you do if you had to choose between love and a throne? Drop a comment below, I want to hear your thoughts. And if you're feeling this story, Roman couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but stare at the woman kneeling in the snow before him, the woman who claimed to be his mate, the woman carrying his mark, the woman holding a child that shouldn't exist. His wolf was going insane inside him, thrashing and snarling, desperate to break free. It recognized her. Every fiber of his being recognized her, even though his mind was a blank slate of confusion and denial. "Say something," the Omega whispered, her voice barely audible over the wind. "Please. Even if it's to tell me you don't believe me." Roman's jaw clenched. I don't understand any of this. I know." Her silver eyes glistened with fresh tears. "You're not supposed to." She shifted the baby in her arms, adjusting the thin blanket with trembling fingers. The infant, his daughter, let out another weak cry, and something in Roman's chest cracked wide open. "She needs warmth," he said roughly, shrugging out of his heavy coat. "Now." The Omega's eyes widened in surprise as he draped the coat over her shoulders, careful not to disturb the baby. "Why are you helping us?" she asked, her voice breaking on the last word. "Because that child is freezing to death," Roman snapped, though his tone was gentler than his words. "And because—" He stopped himself. "Because my wolf is screaming that you're mine. Because everything in me is telling me to protect you. Because I don't remember you, but somehow I've been missing you." He couldn't say any of that. Not when his world was already spinning off its axis. Instead, he crouched down beside her, his gaze fixed on the baby's tiny face. She had his dark hair, what little of it there was, and her features were delicate, impossibly fragile. "What's her name?" he asked quietly. The Omega's breath hitched. "Luna. Luna." Of course it was. "She's 3 days old," the Omega continued, her voice trembling. "Born during the new moon. I tried to keep her hidden, tried to keep us both hidden, but," her words dissolved into a sob. "The cold. The bleeding. I couldn't stop it." Roman's eyes dropped to the dark stains on her clothes, and his stomach twisted. She'd given birth alone. In the woods. In the middle of winter. "You need a healer," he said, his voice harder now. "Both of you do." "No," her response was immediate, desperate. "No healers. No pack. They'll know. The council will know." "The council," Roman repeated, the word tasting like poison on his tongue. "You keep mentioning them. What exactly did they do to me?" The Omega looked away, pain flickering across her face. "They took you from me, Roman. They took us from you. Then help me understand." He reached out, his hand hovering near her face before he caught himself. "Tell me everything." She was silent for a long moment, her gaze distant, haunted. "Do you remember the lunar eclipse 3 years ago?" she finally asked. Roman frowned. "Barely. The council summoned me to the sacred grove. They said it was time for the rite of severance. That my bloodline was too dangerous to continue, that I needed to sever any potential mate bonds before they could form. They lied." Her voice was flat, emotionless. "You'd already formed a bond. With me." Roman's heart slammed against his ribs. "How? When?" 6 months before the eclipse," she whispered. "I was a healer's apprentice, brought to the palace to help with an outbreak of silver poisoning in the Southern Territories. You were different than I expected. Kind. Curious. You asked me about herbs and remedies like they actually mattered to you." A ghost of a smile touched her lips, sad and fragile. "We talked every night for weeks. You'd sneak down to the healing ward after your council meetings, and we'd just talk. About everything. About nothing. And then one night you kissed me." Roman's chest tightened. He could almost feel it, the phantom memory of something just out of reach. "The bond formed instantly," she continued. "Rare. Powerful. Undeniable. You marked me that same night, in the garden beneath the moon. You told me," her voice cracked. "You told me I was your fate. Your fate." The words resonated through him like a bell, familiar and foreign all at once. "And then," he pressed. "And then the council found out." Bitterness dripped from her words. "They'd been watching you. Monitoring you. They knew what our bond meant." What did it mean? She looked down at the baby in her arms, and when she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. It meant I could give you an heir from the old bloodline. The true alpha lineage, the one that predates the Moon Council's authority. The one they've been trying to erase for centuries. Roman's mind reeled. That's myth. Legend. No, her silver eyes locked onto his. It's real. And I carry it. My bloodline goes back to the first wolves, the ones who answered only to the moon goddess herself. The council knew that if we had a child, that child would challenge everything they've built. Their power. Their control. Their version of what an alpha should be. She glanced down at Luna, and her expression softened with a love so fierce it was almost painful to witness. So they took you from me, she said. They performed the rite of severance, not to prevent a bond, but to erase one. They ripped me out of your mind, out of your memories, out of your heart. And they told you it was for the good of the kingdom. Roman felt like he'd been punched in the gut. And you, he asked hoarsely. What happened to you? They banished me. Her voice was hollow now. Told me if I ever came back, if I ever tried to contact you, they'd kill me. And I believed them. So I ran. I hid. I survived. She paused, her hand trembling as she traced a finger over Luna's tiny cheek. And then I discovered I was pregnant. Roman's world narrowed to a single point. He had a mate. He had a daughter. And the people he'd trusted most in the world had stolen them both from him. Why didn't you run farther? He demanded, anger and confusion warring in his chest. Why stay near the borders? Because I'm dying. The words were so simple. So final. Roman's breath caught. The bond, she continued, her voice eerily calm. When they severed it from your side, they left it intact on mine. It's been eating away at me for 3 years, Roman. Slowly. Painfully. A bond that's rejected, that's unreciprocated. It's poison. She met his gaze, and in her silver eyes, he saw the truth. I came back here to die, she said softly. I wanted Luna to be close to your territory. Close to the only pack strong enough to protect her when I'm gone. I wasn't going to approach you. I wasn't going to tell you. I was just going to leave her where someone would find her. And then disappear. No, the word tore out of him before he could stop it. No, you. I was never going to let you remember me, Roman. Her voice was gentle, but firm. The prophecy is clear. If the bond awakens fully, if you remember everything, Luna's power will activate. And the council will come for her. For us. They'll force you to choose between your crown and your blood. Her tears fell freely now. I won't let you make that choice. I won't let you carry that guilt. So please, her voice broke. Please, just take Luna. Keep her safe. And let me go. Roman stared at her, his heart splintering into 1,000 pieces. This woman, this stranger who wasn't a stranger, was willing to die alone in the snow just to keep him from a choice she thought would destroy him. And his wolf was screaming. Not in rage. In recognition. In grief. In a love he didn't remember, but could feel in every broken corner of his soul. No, Roman said again, his voice low and resolute. The Omega blinked at him, confusion flickering across her face. What? I said no. He stood, his jaw set, his golden eyes blazing. I'm not leaving you. I'm not taking Luna and walking away. And I'm sure as hell not letting you die in these woods. Roman. What's your name? He interrupted. She hesitated. Why does it matter? Because I need to know what to call you when I carry you out of here. Her breath caught. You can't. Watch me. Before she could protest, Roman scooped her and the baby into his arms, cradling them both against his chest. The Omega let out a startled gasp, clutching Luna tighter. Put me down, she demanded, though her voice lacked conviction. Not a chance. He began walking, his long strides carrying them quickly through the snow. Now tell me your name, Omega. Or I'll just keep calling you stubborn woman who tried to die in my woods. Despite everything, the pain, the fear, the exhaustion, a broken laugh escaped her lips. Mia, she whispered. My name is Mia. Mia. The name hit him like lightning. Not a memory. Not yet. but something close. Something that felt like the first crack in a dam that had been holding back a flood. Mia, Roman repeated, and his wolf settled just slightly, as if hearing something it had been waiting for. She looked up at him, her silver eyes wide and searching. You're making a mistake. Probably. He adjusted his grip on her, making sure she was secure. But if I'm going to damn myself, I'd rather do it trying to save you than walking away. The council can go to hell. Mia's breath hitched, and for the first time since he'd found her, something like hope flickered in her gaze. Why? She whispered. Why are you doing this? Roman looked down at her, at the woman who claimed to be his mate, at the child, his child, nestled between them. And he told her the only truth he had. Because my wolf knows you. Even if I don't. And I've learned to trust him more than I trust anything else. As they emerged from the forbidden woods, the first rays of dawn breaking over the horizon, Roman made a silent vow. He would remember. He would uncover what the council had stolen from him. And he would make them pay for every tear Mia had shed, every night she'd spent alone, every moment of his daughter's life he'd missed. But first, he had to keep them alive. And that meant going against everything the council had ever taught him. Starting now. If you're hooked, leave a comment and let me know what you think Roman should do next. Roman didn't take Mia to the palace. He couldn't. The council would sense her the moment she crossed the main gates. They'd smell the bond broken as it was, and they'd know exactly who she was. What she carried. So instead, he took her to the one place they'd never think to look. The Alpha's private cabin. It sat deep in the eastern woods, half a mile from the palace grounds, hidden by ancient pines and warded by blood magic only he could access. His father had built it decades ago as a retreat, a place where the Alpha King could escape the weight of the crown, even if just for a night. Roman hadn't been there in years. But as he kicked open the door and carried Mia and Luna inside, the cabin welcomed him like it had been waiting. The interior was dark, cold, untouched by time. Dust coated the furniture. The hearth was empty. But it was shelter. It was safe. And right now, that was all that mattered. Put me down, Mia murmured weakly, though she didn't struggle in his arms. I can walk. You can barely breathe, Roman countered, carrying her straight to the old leather couch near the fireplace. He set her down gently, making sure Luna remained secure in her arms. Mia's face was pale, her lips tinged blue. She was shivering despite his coat wrapped around her. Roman's jaw tightened. Dying. She'd said she was dying. And looking at her now fragile, fading, he believed it. Stay here, he ordered, moving toward the hearth. I'll get a fire going. Roman. Don't argue with me, Mia. The use of her name seemed to stop whatever protest she'd been about to make. She sank back against the couch, clutching Luna close, her silver eyes tracking his every movement. Roman worked quickly, gathering wood from the stack beside the hearth, striking flint until flames caught and began to devour the kindling. Heat slowly filled the cabin, chasing away the bitter cold. But it wasn't enough. Mia needed more than warmth. She needed a healer. Medicine. Blood, probably, given how much she'd lost. And Luna. Roman's gaze shifted to the tiny bundle in Mia's arms. The baby was quiet now, too quiet, her little chest rising and falling in shallow gasps. 3 days old and already fighting for her life. His daughter. The thought still didn't feel real. She needs milk, Mia whispered, as if reading his mind. And I can't, her voice broke. I'm not producing enough. I've tried, but... I'll find something, Roman said, his voice rough. There's a healer in the lower village. She's discreet. I'll send for her. No, Mia's eyes widened in panic. You can't. If the council finds out. They won't. Roman crouched in front of her, his golden eyes fierce. I'll make sure of it. But Mia, if I don't get you help, you're going to die. And Luna, he swallowed hard. She won't last much longer either. Mia's tears spilled over, silent and broken. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I should have been stronger. I should have. Stop. Roman's hand moved before he could think, cupping her face, his thumb brushing away her tears. This isn't your fault. None of this is your fault. She leaned into his touch, a soft, shuddering breath escaping her lips. And for a moment, just a moment, something flickered between them. A pull. A recognition. A bond struggling to reform. Roman felt it like a hook in his chest, dragging him closer to her, demanding he never let go. His wolf surged forward, desperate and possessive. Mate. Ours. Protect. But before he could process it, Luna let out a sharp, pained cry. Mia's focus snapped back to the baby immediately, her hands trembling as she tried to soothe her. Shoo, it's okay. Mama's here. I'm here. But Luna's cries only grew weaker, more desperate. Roman's heart clenched. He'd never felt so helpless in his life. Let me hold her, he said suddenly. Mia's head snapped up. What? Let me hold her, Roman repeated, his voice steady despite the chaos in his chest. Please. Mia hesitated, her silver eyes searching his face. Then, slowly, she nodded. Roman reached out, his large hands impossibly gentle as Mia transferred the tiny bundle into his arms. The moment Luna settled against his chest, something inside him shifted. It wasn't a memory. It was deeper than that. Primal. Ancient. Mine. His wolf roared the word, fierce and unshakable. My daughter. My blood. My pack. Luna's cries softened as she felt his warmth, his heartbeat. Her tiny hand curled against his chest, and Roman swore he felt his entire world realign. She knows you, Mia whispered, her voice filled with wonder and heartbreak. Even though you don't remember, she knows you're her father. Roman couldn't speak. He just stared down at the impossibly small life in his arms, the life he'd helped create, the life he'd been robbed of knowing. I won't let anything happen to her, he said quietly, his voice raw. Or to you. I swear it, Mia. Mia's breath hitched. You can't promise that. Watch me. 2 hours later, the healer arrived. Her name was Ellie, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and steady hands. She'd served Roman's family for years, and more importantly, she knew how to keep her mouth shut. Roman met her at the cabin door, his expression grim. Not a word of this to anyone, he said. Not the council. Not the palace guards. No one. Ellie's brow furrowed, but she nodded. Of course, Your Majesty. He stepped aside, letting her enter. The moment Ellie saw Mia on the couch, her eyes widened. Goddess above, she breathed, rushing forward. How long has she been like this? 3 days, Roman said tightly. She gave birth alone. In the woods. Ellie's expression darkened. She knelt beside Mia, her hands already moving to check her pulse, her temperature, the extent of her blood loss. She's in shock, Ellie murmured. And she's lost too much blood. I'll need herbs, clean water, and she paused, her gaze shifting to Luna in Roman's arms. Is that? Yes, Roman said, his tone brooking no argument. And she needs help too. Ellie nodded slowly, her expression unreadable. But she didn't ask questions. She just worked. For the next hour, the cabin was a flurry of quiet, efficient movement. Ellie treated Mia's wounds, gave her a tonic to stabilize her blood pressure, and wrapped her in warm blankets. She checked Luna's breathing, listened to her tiny heartbeat, and prepared a special milk mixture to help her gain strength. All the while, Roman watched. Silent. Tense. Ready to tear apart anyone who so much as looked at his mate and child the wrong way. Finally, Ellie straightened, wiping her hands on a cloth. She'll live, she said quietly. But she's weak. Very weak. She needs rest, proper food, and time to heal. As for the baby, Ellie hesitated. She's struggling, Your Majesty. Her lungs aren't fully developed. She needs constant warmth, frequent feedings, and close monitoring. If she makes it through the next few days, She will, Roman said, his voice hard as steel. She will. Ellie nodded, though doubt flickered in her eyes. There's something else, she said carefully. The Omega, her scent is strange. Layered. Like someone tried to mask it with magic. Roman's jaw clenched. They did. Ellie's eyes widened. Who would do such a thing? People who wanted her erased, Roman said coldly. People who wanted me to forget she ever existed. Understanding dawned on Ellie's face, followed quickly by horror. The council, she whispered. Roman said nothing. He didn't have to. Ellie swallowed hard. Your Majesty, if they find out she's here. They won't. Roman's golden eyes blazed. And if they do, they'll have to go through me first. Ellie held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded. I'll return tomorrow with more supplies, she said. And I'll keep this between us. You have my word. Thank you, Ellie. She packed her things quickly and slipped out into the night, leaving Roman alone with Mia and Luna once more. Mia was asleep. Or unconscious, Roman wasn't entirely sure. But her breathing was steadier now, her color slightly better. The tonic Ellie had given her was working. Roman sat in the chair beside the couch, Luna cradled in his arms. He'd spent the last hour just holding her, watching her, learning every tiny detail of her face. She had Mia's nose, his eyes, and a strength in her that defied her fragile size. You're going to be a fighter, he murmured to her. Just like your mother. Luna's tiny fingers curled around his thumb, and Roman felt something crack open in his chest. Love. Fierce. Absolute. Terrifying. He'd die for this child. He'd kill for her. And the council, those bastards who'd stolen his memories, his mate, his daughter's first days of life, they would pay. Roman. Mia's voice was soft, hoarse. He looked up to find her awake, her silver eyes watching him. You're still here, she whispered, as if she couldn't quite believe it. Where else would I be? Her lips trembled. I thought maybe you'd leave once the healer came. That you'd realize this was too much. Too dangerous. Roman stood, crossing to her side, Luna still secure in his arms. I told you, he said quietly. I'm not leaving. Not you. Not her. Mia's eyes filled with tears. You don't understand what you're risking. Then help me understand. She was silent for a long moment, her gaze dropping to Luna. The prophecy, she finally said. It's not just about bloodlines or power. It's about balance. The council, they've ruled the wolf packs for centuries, but their authority was never supposed to be absolute. The first wolves, the ones my bloodline descends from, they were the moon goddess's original children. They answered only to her. No kings. No councils. Just the goddess and the will of the pack. She paused, her voice growing quieter. Luna carries that bloodline. And if she comes into her power, she'll be able to challenge the council's authority. She'll be able to unite the packs under the old ways, the true ways. And the council, they'll do anything to stop that. Roman's grip on Luna tightened protectively. Let them try. Roman, they'll force you to choose, Mia said desperately. Your crown or your daughter. Your kingdom or your mate. And if you choose us, I already have. The words were out before he could stop them. Mia stared at him, shock and disbelief written across her face. What? Roman met her gaze, unflinching. I don't remember you, Mia. I don't remember what we had. But I know this, my wolf knows you. He's been howling for you since the moment I saw you. And this child, he looked down at Luna. She's mine. I feel it in every bone, every breath. So if the council wants to take you from me again, they're going to have to kill me first. Mia's tears spilled over, and this time, they weren't tears of sorrow. They were tears of hope. You're insane, she whispered. Probably. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. But you're stuck with me now. And then everything changed. A knock echoed through the cabin, sharp, urgent, deliberate. Roman's entire body went rigid. No one knew about this place. No one except. The door burst open. And standing in the doorway, Flanked by 2 council guards was Counselor Thorn, the head of the Moon Council, the man who'd overseen Roman's rite of severance. His cold eyes swept over the cabin, taking in Mia on the couch, Luna in Roman's arms. And then he smiled. A thin, cruel smile that made Roman's blood run cold. Well, Thorn said smoothly. It seems the Alpha King has found something he wasn't supposed to remember. Roman's claws extended. His wolf snarled. And Mia's scream echoed through the cabin. No. Roman moved before Thorn could take another step. He placed Luna carefully back in Mia's arms, positioning himself between his family and the council guards, his body a wall of lethal intent. Get out, Roman growled, his voice dropping into the alpha command that could bring lesser wolves to their knees. Now. But Thorn didn't flinch. He simply clasped his hands behind his back, his cold smile never wavering. I'm afraid I can't do that, Your Majesty, Thorn said, his tone disgustingly pleasant. You see, we have a rather significant problem on our hands. The only problem here is you breaking into my private property, Roman snarled, his claws fully extended now, his eyes blazing gold. Leave. Before I make you. Thorn tilted his head, studying Roman like he was a fascinating specimen under glass. You don't remember, do you? He mused. Good. That means the memory wipe is still holding. Mostly. Behind Roman, Mia's breathing grew rapid, panicked. How did you find us? She whispered, her voice shaking. Thorn's gaze shifted to her, and his expression hardened with disgust. Did you really think you could hide from us forever, Omega? He said the word like it was something filthy. We've been tracking you since the moment you crossed back into Bloodridge territory. The only question was whether the Alpha King would be foolish enough to follow you into those woods. He looked back at Roman, disappointment clear in his eyes. And it seems he was. Roman's wolf was screaming at him to attack, to tear Thorn apart, to eliminate the threat standing between him and his mate. But Thorn had 2 guards with him, both armed with silver-tipped spears. And behind them, in the darkness beyond the cabin door, Roman could sense more wolves gathering. The council had come prepared. What do you want, Thorn? Roman demanded, forcing his voice into something resembling control. What I've always wanted, Your Majesty. To protect the kingdom. To maintain order. To ensure that prophecies remain where they belong in dusty old books, not standing in front of me holding a half-dead Omega and a child that should never have been born. Mia flinched at his words, clutching Luna tighter. Roman's entire body vibrated with barely restrained rage. Choose your next words very carefully, he said, his voice deadly quiet. Because I promise you, Counselor, if you threaten my daughter again, memory wipe or not, I will rip your throat out where you stand. A flicker of surprise crossed Thorn's face. Your daughter, he repeated slowly. So she told you then. Interesting. And yet you still don't remember her, do you? Don't remember the bond. The marking. The nights you spent promising her forever. Each word was a calculated strike, designed to hurt. And it was working. Roman could feel the gaps in his memory like open wounds, could feel the phantom ache of something vital that had been stolen from him. You had no right, Roman said, his voice shaking with fury. No right to take her from me. To take my memories. My choice. We had every right, Thorn countered, his voice sharp now. You are the Alpha King. Your bloodline, your choices, your mate, none of it belongs to you alone. It belongs to the kingdom. And the kingdom cannot survive what that child represents. His gaze dropped to Luna, and the hatred in his eyes made Roman's blood boil. The old bloodline was eliminated for a reason, Thorn continued. It was chaos. Anarchy. Wolves answering only to the moon goddess, with no respect for law, for order, for the structure that keeps us civilized. We built something better. Something stronger. And we will not let a half-breed abomination tear it all down. Call her that again, Roman said softly, dangerously. I dare you. Thorn's smile returned, cold and confident. You can't protect them, Roman. You know that. Even if you wanted to, even if you somehow managed to defy the council, to remember what we took from you, the moment that bond fully awakens, the prophecy will activate. And then you'll have to choose. Your crown or your blood. Your kingdom or your mate. He took a step forward. And we both know what choice a true king would make. Roman's mind raced. Thorn was right about one thing: he couldn't fight the entire council. Not here. Not now. Not with Mia and Luna so vulnerable. But he also couldn't let them take his family. He needed time. Time to figure out what the council had done to him. Time to unlock the memories they'd stolen. Time to find a way to protect Mia and Luna without losing everything else. And that meant playing along. For now. Roman forced his body to relax, forced his claws to retract, forced his expression into something resembling calm. "You're right," he said, the words tasting like ash. "I don't remember her. I don't remember any of it." Behind him, Mia made a small, wounded sound. Roman didn't turn around. He couldn't. Not without breaking. "So tell me, counselor," he continued, his voice cold and measured. "What exactly do you want me to do?" Thorn's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "Simple. You will return to the palace. You will forget this night ever happened. And you will let us handle the Omega and her offspring." Handle them how? Roman's jaw clenched so hard it ached. "Humanely, of course," Thorn said smoothly. "We'll relocate them. Somewhere far from here. Somewhere they can live out their days in peace, away from the kingdom, away from you. The child will be monitored, naturally, to ensure the prophecy never manifests. But they'll be alive. Safe." It was a lie. Roman knew it with every fiber of his being. The council would never let Mia and Luna live. They were too dangerous. Too much of a threat to the carefully constructed order Thorn had spent centuries building. If Roman walked away, his mate and daughter would be dead within the week. But if he fought now, they'd all die tonight. Roman's mind worked frantically, searching for a third option, a way out. And then Mia spoke. "I'll go." Roman spun around, his eyes wide with shock and fury. Mia was sitting up now, her face pale but determined, Luna cradled protectively against her chest. "Mia, no." "I'll go with them," she repeated, her silver eyes locked on Roman's. "If you promise to leave Roman alone. If you promise not to hurt him, not to punish him for helping us, I'll go." "Willingly." "No." The word tore out of Roman like a roar. "Absolutely not." "Mia, you don't know what they'll—" "I know exactly what they'll do," Mia interrupted, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. "But this is the only way to keep you safe. To keep you on your throne, where you belong." She looked at Thorn, and Roman saw the resignation in her eyes. The acceptance of her own death. "Do we have a deal, counselor?" she asked quietly. Thorn's smile widened. "We do." "Like hell you do," Roman snarled, moving toward Mia. "I'm not letting them take you." "I'm not." One of the guards stepped forward, spear raised, silver tip gleaming in the firelight. Roman froze. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be, Your Majesty," Thorn said pleasantly. "The Omega has made her choice. Honor it." Roman's hands were shaking. His wolf was howling, thrashing, demanding he fight, that he protect his mate, his pup, his family. But Mia was looking at him with such fierce, desperate love that it broke him. "Trust me," she mouthed silently. "Please." And in that moment, Roman understood. She had a plan. He didn't know what it was. Didn't know how she could possibly escape the council's grasp once they had her. But she was asking him to trust her. To believe in her. The way he should have 3 years ago, before his memories were stolen. Roman's jaw clenched. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to fight, to never let them take her. But he forced himself to step back. To let Mia stand. To watch as she walked toward Thorn with Luna in her arms, her head held high despite her obvious pain. She paused beside Roman, so close he could feel her warmth. "Find the truth," she whispered, so quietly only he could hear. "In the sacred grove. Under the full moon. That's where they took it from you." That's where you'll find me again. Then she was past him, moving toward the door, toward the guards, toward what Roman knew in his bones was a death sentence. Thorn gestured, and the guards moved to flank Mia, their spears still raised and ready. A wise decision, Your Majesty, Thorn said, nodding approvingly. You've proven yourself a true king tonight. The kingdom is fortunate to have a ruler who understands duty over sentiment. Roman said nothing. He just watched as they led Mia out into the night. Watched as she cast one last look over her shoulder, her silver eyes finding his in the darkness. I love you, she mouthed. I never stopped. And then she was gone. The door slammed shut. And Roman was alone. For exactly 3 seconds, Roman stood perfectly still. Then he exploded. He shifted mid-roar, his wolf bursting free in a violent transformation that shattered furniture and sent splinters flying. His massive black wolf form filled the cabin, too large, too powerful, too enraged to be contained. He had to go after them. Had to save her. Had to find the truth. In the sacred grove. Under the full moon. Mia's words echoed through his mind, cutting through the rage. She didn't want him to chase them. She wanted him to remember. Because if he remembered, if the bond fully awakened, he wouldn't just be Roman, the Alpha King, bound by duty and council law. He'd be something more. Something the council couldn't control. Roman shifted back to human form, his chest heaving, his mind racing. The sacred grove. The full moon. That was 2 days away. 2 days to prepare. 2 days to figure out what the council had done to him. 2 days to save his mate and daughter. Roman grabbed his coat from the floor, his jaw set with grim determination. If the council wanted to play games with his memories, with his family, with his fate, fine. He'd play. But when this was over, when he had Mia and Luna back safe in his arms, the Moon Council would learn exactly why you didn't cross an Alpha King who had nothing left to lose. Roman spent the next 2 days preparing for war. Not the kind fought with claws and teeth. The kind fought with truth. He started by summoning Ellie back to the cabin under the cover of darkness. If anyone would know about the rite of severance, about memory magic, about how to undo what the council had done, it would be her. It's dangerous, Ellie warned, her expression grave as she spread ancient texts across the cabin's table. Memory magic isn't meant to be reversed. The bonds they create, the walls they build in your mind, breaking through them could destroy you. Drive you mad. Or worse. I don't care, Roman said flatly. Tell me how to do it. Ellie studied him for a long moment, then sighed. There's a ritual, she said slowly. It requires returning to the place where the original magic was cast, in your case, the sacred grove. You'll need to perform it during the full moon, when the goddess's power is at its peak. And you'll need something that belonged to the person you're trying to remember. Something with their scent, their essence. Roman's hand went to his pocket, where he'd tucked the torn piece of Mia's sleeve. The one stained with her blood, saturated with her scent. I have it, he said. Ellie nodded slowly. Then there's a chance. But Roman, you need to understand what you're risking. If the bond fully awakens, if your memories return, the council will know immediately. They'll feel the shift in the magical balance. And they'll come for you. Good, Roman said, his voice cold. Let them come. He also sent word to his most trusted allies. Not many wolves in the kingdom would stand against the council. Their power was too absolute, their influence too vast. But Roman had spent years building relationships, earning loyalty through action rather than fear. And some of those wolves owed him their lives. Liam arrived first, Roman's head warrior, a massive gray wolf with scars earned from decades of battle. You're planning something stupid, aren't you? Liam said the moment he entered the cabin. Extremely stupid, Roman confirmed. Good. I was getting bored. Next came Zane, the pack's master of intelligence, a lean wolf with sharp eyes and sharper instincts. The council's been moving, Zane reported. Quietly. They've doubled the guard around the council chambers. And they've eaten an emergency session for tomorrow night. Something's happening. I know what's happening, Roman said grimly. They're going to execute Mia and Luna before the full moon. Before I have a chance to remember. Zane's expression darkened. Then we move tonight. No, Roman shook his head. We move tomorrow. At the Grove. When I perform the ritual. Roman, that's the only way, Roman interrupted. If I try to rescue them now, the council will just relocate them. Hide them somewhere I can't reach. But if I break the memory spell, if the bond awakens, I'll be able to find them. No matter where they are. The mate bond worked like that, a connection that transcended distance, that pulled mates toward each other like gravity. If Roman could restore it, Mia would be a beacon he could follow anywhere. Liam crossed his arms. And if the ritual fails? If it kills you? Roman met his gaze steadily. Then you burn the council chambers to the ground and get my family out. By any means necessary. A slow smile spread across Liam's face. Now that's an order I can follow. The full moon rose like a silver eye watching over the kingdom. Roman stood at the edge of the sacred grove, his heart pounding, Mia's blood-stained sleeve clutched in his hand. Liam and Zane waited in the shadows nearby, ready to move the moment Roman gave the signal. Or the moment everything went to hell. The grove looked exactly as Roman remembered it, ancient trees forming a perfect circle, their branches reaching toward the moon like supplicating hands. The ground was covered in soft moss that glowed faintly in the moonlight. And at the center of the grove was the altar. A flat stone surface carved with symbols Roman didn't recognize, slick with old magic that made his skin prickle. This was where the council had performed the rite of severance. This was where they'd ripped Mia from his soul. Roman stepped into the grove. The moment his foot crossed the threshold, the air changed. It became heavy, thick, oppressive. He could feel the magic here, centuries old, waiting, watching. Roman moved to the altar, placed Mia's sleeve on the stone surface, and closed his eyes. I don't know if you can hear me, goddess, he said quietly. I don't know if you care about kings and councils and prophecies. But if you ever loved your first wolves, if you ever cared about the bonds you created, then please help me remember. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the moonlight intensified. Blinding. Burning. Roman gasped as pain lanced through his skull, sharp and merciless. His knees hit the ground. And the memories came flooding back. He saw her, Mia, in the healing ward, laughing as she ground herbs, her silver eyes bright with intelligence and mischief. He saw himself approaching her, curious, captivated. He saw their first conversation, their second, their 20th. He saw the night he kissed her in the garden under a moon just like this one. He saw the bond snap into place, golden and unbreakable, binding their souls together. He saw himself marking her, claiming her, promising her forever. And then he saw the council arriving. Saw Thorne's cold smile as he tore Mia from Roman's arms. Saw the ritual that followed, the one that reached into Roman's mind and ripped away every memory of her, every moment of love, every promise made. And he saw Mia screaming as they dragged her away, begging Roman to remember, begging him not to forget. Roman came back to himself with a roar that shook the trees. The bond exploded to life inside him. Not broken, not severed, awakened. He could feel Mia now, her pain, her fear, her desperate determination to keep Luna safe. And he could feel exactly where she was. The council chambers. In the dungeons below. Waiting to die. Roman stood, his eyes blazing gold, his entire body thrumming with power. He remembered. He remembered everything. And the Moon Council was about to learn what it meant to steal from an Alpha King who loved. Liam. Zane, Roman called, his voice carrying through the grove like a command from the goddess herself. His warriors emerged from the shadows immediately. It's time, Roman said, and his smile was all teeth. Let's go get my family back. The council chambers stood like a monument to power. Carved from black stone and warded with centuries of protective magic, it was designed to be impenetrable. A fortress where the Moon Council could rule without fear, without challenge, without consequence. Tonight, it would burn. Roman moved through the shadows with Liam and Zane flanking him, 20 of his most loyal warriors spread out behind them. They'd entered through the old catacombs, tunnels his father had shown him years ago, back when Roman was still a prince learning the secrets of the kingdom. The council didn't know these passages existed. Their first mistake. Roman could feel Mia through the bond now, a bright, desperate flame somewhere below them, growing weaker by the hour. She was hurt, exhausted, terrified, but alive. Still alive. Hold on, he sent through the bond, not knowing if she could hear him, not caring. I'm coming. I remember. I remember everything. He felt her respond, a pulse of shock, of hope, of love so fierce it nearly brought him to his knees. Roman. Just his name. But it was everything. The dungeons are 2 levels down, Zane whispered, consulting the map he'd drawn from memory. But there'll be guards. At least a dozen, maybe more. Good, Liam growled, cracking his knuckles. I was hoping for a fight. Roman's jaw clenched. We do this quietly. No alarms. We get Mia and Luna out first, then we deal with the council. And if they try to stop us? Liam asked. Roman's eyes flashed gold. Then they die. They encountered the first guard at the dungeon entrance. He was young, barely out of his training years, and he died before he could scream, Liam's hand over his mouth, Roman's claws through his heart. Quick. Efficient. Merciless. Roman felt nothing as the guard's body crumpled to the floor. He'd stopped feeling anything the moment Thorn took Mia from the cabin. Now there was only the mission. Get his mate. Get his daughter. Destroy anyone who stood in his way. They moved deeper into the dungeons, taking out guards silently, methodically. Roman's wolf was in control now, guiding his movements, sharpening his senses. And the bond was pulling him forward like a lifeline. Closer. She was so close. Finally, they reached a heavy iron door at the end of a long corridor. 2 guards stood watch, both armed with silver weapons. Roman didn't hesitate. He shifted mid-stride, his massive black wolf form exploding into the corridor with lethal speed. The first guard didn't even have time to raise his spear before Roman's jaws closed around his throat. The second guard screamed, and Liam silenced him with a blade between his ribs. Roman shifted back to human form, his hands shaking as he reached for the door. Mia, he called out, his voice rough. Mia, I'm here. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, Roman? Her voice was weak, disbelieving, but it was hers. Roman's hands worked frantically at the lock, ripping it apart with his bare hands when the key wouldn't turn fast enough. The door swung open, and his heart shattered. Mia was chained to the wall. Silver chains. The kind that burned wolf skin, that weakened them, that made shifting impossible. Her wrists were raw and bleeding where the metal had cut into her. Her face was bruised, her clothes torn. She looked like she'd been through hell. But her silver eyes, those beautiful, fierce silver eyes, lit up the moment she saw him. You came, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. You actually came. Always, Roman choked out, crossing the cell in 2 strides. His hands went to the chains immediately, but the moment he touched the silver, his skin sizzled and burned. He didn't care. He ripped the chains apart with his bare hands, the silver searing his palms, the smell of burning flesh filling the cell. Roman, stop, you're hurting yourself. I don't care, he growled, tearing through the last chain. Mia collapsed forward, and he caught her, pulling her against his chest, holding her like he'd never let go. I remember, he whispered into her hair, his voice breaking. Mia, I remember everything. The garden. The bond. The way you laughed when I brought you moonflowers because I didn't know which herbs you actually needed. I remember loving you. I remember choosing you. I remember it all. Mia sobbed against his chest, her hands clutching his shirt like he might disappear. I thought I'd lost you forever, she cried. I thought they'd taken you from me completely. Never, Roman swore fiercely. Never again. I'm so sorry, Mia. I'm so sorry I let them take you. I'm sorry I forgot. You didn't let them do anything, Mia interrupted, pulling back to look at him, her hands cupping his face. They stole you from me. They stole us from each other. But you found your way back. You fought for us. Roman kissed her then, hard and desperate and full of 3 years of longing. And the bond between them sang. Golden light exploded through the cell, bright and pure, as the mate bond fully awakened for the first time since the council had tried to sever it. Roman felt it snap into place like coming home. Mate. Mine. Forever. Mia gasped against his lips, her eyes going wide as she felt it too, the complete, unbreakable connection between them. I feel you, she whispered in wonder. I can feel everything. Your heart. Your soul. She stopped. Her face went pale. Where's Luna? She demanded suddenly, panic flooding her voice. Roman, where's our daughter? Roman's blood turned to ice. What do you mean? Isn't she? He looked around the cell. Empty. No baby. No Luna. They took her, Mia choked out, fresh tears streaming down her face. An hour ago. Thorn came himself. He said she was too dangerous to keep alive. That they were going to. She couldn't finish. She didn't have to. Roman's entire world tilted. No. No, no, no. Where? He demanded, his voice deadly calm. Where did they take her, Mia? The ritual chamber, Mia whispered, horror in her eyes. At the top of the council tower. He said they were going to perform the rite of ending before midnight. Before the prophecy could. She didn't get to finish. Because at that moment, the dungeons exploded with sound. Alarms. Howls. The thunder of boots on stone. The council had discovered them. Liam burst into the cell, his face grim. We've got company, he said. A lot of it. Guards are flooding the dungeons. We need to move. Now. Roman's jaw clenched. Luna's in the ritual chamber. Top of the tower. Liam's expression darkened. That's on the other side of the compound. And there'll be dozens of guards between here and there. I don't care if there are hundreds, Roman snarled. My daughter is up there, and they're planning to kill her. We're getting her back. Roman, you can barely stand, Mia protested, looking at his burned hands, the exhaustion in his eyes. You used so much power breaking the memory spell, and now. I said I don't care. Roman's voice was absolute. He turned to Liam and Zane. Get me out. Take her through the catacombs to the safe house. I'll get Luna and meet you there. Absolutely not, Mia said immediately. I'm not leaving you. Mia. She's my daughter too, Mia interrupted, her silver eyes blazing with a mother's fury. I'm not hiding while you fight for her. We do this together. Or not at all. Roman stared at her, his mate, his fierce, stubborn, impossible mate, and felt his heart crack open all over again. Together, he agreed finally. Liam groaned. You're both insane. You know that, right? A ghost of a smile touched Roman's lips. Probably. They fought their way through the dungeons like wolves possessed. Roman led the charge, his claws slick with blood, his wolf in complete control. Mia stayed close behind him, using the fighting techniques he'd taught her in secret all those years ago, the ones she'd never forgotten even when he had. Liam and Zane covered their flanks, cutting down guards with brutal efficiency. But for every guard they killed, 2 more appeared. The council had mobilized the entire garrison. They weren't getting out of this without a war. The stairwell. Zane shouted, pointing to a spiral staircase at the end of the corridor. It leads straight to the tower. Roman didn't hesitate. He grabbed Mia's hand and ran. They burst into the stairwell with guards hot on their heels. The stairs were narrow, defensible. Liam and Zane could hold them while Roman and Mia climbed. Go! Liam roared, already shifting to his wolf form. We'll hold them here. Get your pup. Roman and Mia ran. Up and up and up, their legs burning, their lungs screaming. But the bond was pulling Roman forward. Not to Mia this time. To Luna. He could feel her now faint, so faint, but there. His daughter's tiny life force, flickering like a candle in the wind. Daddy's coming, he thought desperately. Hold on, little one. Daddy's coming. They burst through a door at the top of the stairs. And stopped dead. The ritual chamber was a circular room carved entirely from moonstone. It glowed with an eerie silver light, making everything look ghostly, unreal. And at the center of the room, on a raised altar, lay Luna. She was so tiny, so vulnerable. Surrounded by 5 council members in ceremonial robes, their hands raised toward the moon visible through the open ceiling. And standing at the head of the altar, a silver dagger in his hand, was Thorn. Thorn said, not even bothering to turn around. The Alpha King. Right on time. Roman's claws extended. His wolf snarled. Step away from my daughter, he said, his voice quiet and deadly. Now. Thorn finally turned, and his expression was almost pitying. You still don't understand, do you? He said softly. This isn't about what I want, Roman. This is about what must be done. For the kingdom. For order. For the survival of everything we've built. You're talking about murdering a baby, Mia spat, her voice shaking with rage. I'm talking about preventing the end of civilization as we know it, Thorn countered. That child carries a power that predates us all. A power that will dismantle every law, every structure, every hierarchy that keeps our world from descending into chaos. If she lives, if she comes into her inheritance, then wolves will be free, Roman interrupted, stepping forward. Free to choose their own paths. Free to follow the goddess instead of corrupt councils. Free to live without tyrants like you controlling every aspect of their lives. Thorn's expression hardened. You call it freedom. I call it anarchy. I call it justice, Roman growled. Then you're a fool. Thorn raised the silver dagger higher. And I'm sorry, Roman. Truly. You were a good king. But you've chosen the wrong side of history. He turned back to Luna. And brought the dagger down. Roman moved. Faster than thought. Faster than breath. He shifted mid-leap, his massive wolf form colliding with Thorn's body just as the dagger descended. The blade scraped across Roman's shoulder instead of Luna's chest, a burning line of silver that made him howl in pain. But he didn't let go. His jaws closed around Thorn's arm, crushing bone, forcing the dagger to clatter to the floor. The other council members scattered, their ritual broken, their confidence shattered. Mia was already at the altar, scooping Luna into her arms, checking her for injuries. She's okay. Mia cried, relief flooding her voice. Roman, she's okay. But Roman barely heard her. Because beneath him, Thorn was laughing. Laughing even as blood poured from his mangled arm, even as Roman's teeth dug deeper into his flesh. You think you've won? Thorn gasped out. You think killing me changes anything? Roman shifted back to human form, his hand going to Thorn's throat. I think you're about to find out what happens when you threaten an Alpha King's family, Roman snarled. The prophecy, Thorn choked out, his eyes wild. It's already begun. The moment your bond awakened, the moment you remembered her, the clock started ticking. 7 days, Roman. In 7 days, your daughter will come into her power. And when she does, you'll have to choose. His smile was bloody manic. Kill her and keep your throne. Or let her live and watch your kingdom tear itself apart. That's the prophecy. That's what the goddess decreed centuries ago. There is no third option. There is no happy ending. There is only. Roman snapped his neck before he could finish. Thorn's body went limp. And the chamber fell silent. Mia was crying. Not from fear. Not from relief. From grief. Because she knew what Roman had just learned. What Thorn's final words meant. Roman turned to her slowly, blood dripping from his hands, his shoulder still burning from the silver wound. Tell me you was lying, Roman said, his voice hollow. Mia looked at him with such devastating sadness that he already knew the answer. The prophecy, she whispered. It's not just about Luna's bloodline. It's about balance. About sacrifice. The goddess, she never lets power exist without a price. She clutched Luna tighter to her chest. When Luna comes into her full power, when she awakens as the true alpha, the kingdom's bond with you will break. The wolves will have to choose between following you or following her. Between the old ways and the new. And if they choose her, I lose everything, Roman finished, his voice cracking. My throne. My pack. My kingdom. Unless you stop the prophecy before it completes, Mia said quietly. Unless you. She couldn't say it. But Roman understood. Unless you kill your daughter. The choice Thorn had described. The choice the goddess had always intended. A king's crown or a father's love. Roman looked at Luna, tiny, perfect Luna, sleeping peacefully in Mia's arms, completely unaware that her existence was tearing apart everything her father had ever known. And he knew, with absolute certainty, what his choice would be. Then I lose everything, he said simply. Mia's breath hitched. Roman. I'm not killing our daughter, Mia. His voice was steady now. Resolved. I don't care what the prophecy says. I don't care what the goddess wants. I don't care if every wolf in this kingdom turns against me. Luna lives. That's not a choice. That's a fact. Tears streamed down Mia's face. You'd give up your crown? Your power? Everything you've worked for. Roman crossed to her, his hand cupping her face, his forehead resting against hers. I'd give up 1,000 crowns for you, he whispered. For her. For this. You're not just my mate, Mia. You're my choice. You've always been my choice. Even when I couldn't remember. Even when they stole you from me. My soul knew. My wolf knew. He kissed her softly. So let the kingdom fall. Let the prophecy come true. As long as I have you and Luna, I have everything that matters. Mia sobbed against him, her free hand clutching his shirt. I love you, she whispered. Goddess, Roman, I love you so much. I love you too. He pulled back, looking at Luna. Both of you. And for one perfect moment, standing in the ruins of the council chamber, surrounded by blood and death and prophecy. They were just a family. But outside the chamber, the kingdom was beginning to burn. Because the wolves had felt it. The moment the bond between Roman and his pack had started to fracture. The moment Luna's power had begun to wake. The moment everything changed. And in 7 days, the choice Roman had just made would either save them all. Or destroy everything he'd ever known. The safe house wasn't safe anymore. Roman knew it the moment they arrived, when the door swung open too easily, when the silence felt too heavy, when his wolf's hackles rose in warning. Someone had been there. Stay behind me, he ordered, pushing Mia and Luna back as he stepped inside. The interior was untouched. Nothing broken. Nothing stolen. But on the table in the center of the room sat a single envelope, sealed with the Moon Council's crest. Roman's blood ran cold. Mia saw it too. They know where we are. They've always known, Roman said grimly, crossing to the table. He tore open the envelope, his jaw clenching tighter with each word he read. To the former Alpha King. You have 7 days to comply with the goddess's decree. Present yourself and the child to the Grand Council at dawn on the 7th day, or we will come for you. And when we do, we will not be merciful. The choice is yours. Surrender peacefully and accept exile, or force us to take action that will result in the deaths of everyone you've sworn to protect. We have mobilized every pack within 1,000 miles. We have called in debts from allied kingdoms. We have promised your territory, your resources, and your bloodline's extinction to whoever brings us the child. You cannot run. You cannot hide. You cannot win. Choose wisely. The Moon Council. Roman crumpled the letter in his fist, his entire body shaking with rage. What does it say? Mia asked, though her voice suggested she already knew. They're coming for us, Roman said flatly. All of them. Every pack. Every ally. They've turned the entire kingdom against us. Mia's face went pale. How many wolves are we talking about? Thousands. Roman's voice was hollow. Maybe tens of thousands. They're offering rewards, territory, power, everything they need to turn this into a manhunt. He looked at Luna, sleeping peacefully in Mia's arms, completely unaware that the world wanted her dead. We need to leave, Mia said urgently. Tonight. We'll cross the border into the Wildlands. The council has no authority there. We can. The Wildlands are a death sentence, Roman interrupted. No law. No order. Rogue packs that would kill us for sport. And, even if we survived, they'd still find us eventually. The council has eyes everywhere. Then what do we do? Mia's voice cracked. Roman, what do we do? For the first time since he'd found her in the woods, Roman had no answer. He was the Alpha King, or had been. He'd commanded armies, negotiated treaties, faced down enemies without flinching. But now? Now he was just a father trying to protect his daughter from a prophecy that demanded her death or his downfall. And he was losing. They stayed in the safe house that night, knowing it was only a matter of time before the council's forces arrived. Roman stood guard at the window, his eyes scanning the darkness, his wolf on high alert. Behind him, Mia sat on the bed with Luna, humming a soft lullaby. The sound was heartbreaking in its tenderness, a mother trying to give her child peace in a world that wanted to destroy her. I can feel them, Mia said quietly, not stopping her humming. Through the bond. Your pack. They're conflicted. Roman's jaw clenched. They're choosing sides. Some are loyal to you, Mia continued. I can feel their confusion, their anger at the council. But others. Her voice wavered. Others are afraid of what Luna represents. Of what the prophecy means. They should be afraid of me, Roman growled. Anyone who comes for my daughter will regret it. Roman. Mia's voice was gentle but firm. You can't fight them all. Even you have limits. Then I'll die trying. And what happens to Luna then? Mia demanded, her silver eyes flashing. What happens to me? If you die fighting, we die too. Is that what you want? Roman spun to face her, his expression anguished. Of course not. But what's the alternative, Mia? Surrender? Let them take her? Kill her while we watch? No. Mia's voice was steady now resolute. We find another way. What other way? The prophecy is absolute. Either Luna lives and I lose everything or we change the prophecy. Roman froze. What? Mia stood, still cradling Luna, and crossed to him. Her silver eyes burned with a fierce determination he'd never seen before. The prophecy isn't some divine law that can't be challenged, she said. It's a prediction. A possibility. And prophecies can be wrong. They can be redirected. How? Roman demanded. Mia, if you know something. My bloodline, she interrupted. The first wolves. We weren't just powerful, Roman. We were connected to the goddess in ways the modern packs have forgotten. We could speak to her. Commune with her. Ask for her guidance. She looked down at Luna, her expression softening. What if Luna's power isn't meant to destroy your kingdom, she whispered. What if it's meant to save it? What if the council has been wrong all along about what the prophecy means? Roman's heart stuttered. You think the goddess would listen? After everything the council has done in her name. I think she's been waiting for someone to ask the right questions, Mia said. The council has spent centuries interpreting her will through fear and control. But what if that was never what she wanted? She reached out, taking Roman's hand. We need to go back to the sacred grove, she said. Not to break magic this time. To seek the goddess's truth. To ask her what Luna's purpose really is. That's insane, Roman said, though hope was already kindling in his chest. The council will be watching the grove. It'll be a trap. Then we spring the trap. Mia's smile was fierce. And we make them witness what happens when you stop trying to control the goddess and start listening to her instead. They left before dawn. Roman carried Luna this time, wrapped securely in his coat, while Mia walked beside him, her hand in his. The bond between them hummed with shared determination, shared fear, shared love. They didn't encounter any patrols on the way to the grove. Either the council wasn't expecting them to return so soon, or they were waiting to ambush them at the destination. Roman suspected the latter. If this goes wrong, he started. It won't, Mia interrupted. But if it does, Roman pressed. If the council attacks before we can reach the goddess, I need you to run. Take Luna and... No. Mia stopped walking, forcing him to face her. We're in this together, remember? No more running. No more hiding. We face this as a family, or not at all. Roman stared at her, his mate, his stubborn, brilliant, impossible mate, and felt his heart crack open all over again. I don't deserve you, he whispered. You're right, Mia said, a ghost of a smile touching her lips. You don't. But you're stuck with me anyway. He kissed her then, soft and desperate, pouring every ounce of love and fear and hope into that single moment. When they finally pulled apart, Luna stirred in his arms, her tiny hand reaching up toward the sky, toward the moon, still visible in the pre-dawn light. And Roman swore he saw the infant smile. The sacred grove was waiting. The moment they stepped through the threshold, the air changed, became thick with ancient power, humming with potential. The moonstone altar at the center gleamed in the fading moonlight, and the trees seemed to lean in, watching, listening. What do we do now? Roman asked quietly. Mia walked to the altar, her movements graceful despite her exhaustion. She placed both hands on the stone, closed her eyes, and began to speak. Not in the modern tongue. In the old language, the one the first wolves had used, the one that predated the council, the one that was pure and direct and heard. Roman didn't understand the words, but he felt their power. The grove responded immediately. The moonlight intensified, blazing bright enough to rival the sun. The trees began to glow with silver light, and the altar beneath Mia's hands pulsed with energy that made the air crackle. Goddess, Mia called out, her voice ringing through the grove. Mother of all wolves. First voice. Eternal guide. We seek your wisdom. We seek your truth. The light grew brighter. Roman shielded Luna with his body, but the baby didn't cry. Instead, she stared up at the light with wide, curious eyes, as if she recognized it. Your daughter comes before you, Mia continued, her voice stronger now. Born of the true bloodline. Born of love. Born of choice. The council says she is a threat. That her power will destroy all they have built. But we ask you, is that your will? Is that your truth? The light began to coalesce, taking shape. Roman's breath caught. A figure was forming in the center of the grove, tall, ethereal, made of pure moonlight. Her features were indistinct, constantly shifting, but her presence was undeniable. The moon goddess. She had answered. Her voice was everywhere and nowhere, gentle as a whisper yet powerful as thunder. My children, she said, and the sound resonated through Roman's very bones. You have called, and I have come. Mia immediately dropped to her knees, her head bowed. Roman followed suit, still cradling Luna protectively. Rise, the goddess commanded, her tone kind. You need not kneel before me. You have done nothing wrong. They stood slowly, and the goddess's form shifted, moving closer, studying them with eyes that held the weight of eternity. The council has twisted my words, she said, and there was sorrow in her voice. They have turned prophecy into weapon, hope into fear, my gift into curse. Then the prophecy Roman started. Is true, the goddess interrupted. But not as they have taught you. She looked at Luna, and her expression softened with such love that Roman's eyes burned. Your daughter carries the power of the first wolves, the goddess explained. The power to unite, to heal, to restore balance to a world that has forgotten what true pack means. But the council said, Mia began. The council fears what they cannot control, the goddess said. They have ruled through division, through hierarchy, through the belief that some wolves are worth more than others. But that was never my design. She raised her hand, and images began to appear in the air around them, visions of the past. The first wolves lived in harmony, she narrated. Alpha, Beta, Omega, all were equal, all were valued. Leadership was earned through wisdom and compassion, not birthright or force. There were no councils, no rigid hierarchies, only packs that followed the moon, that honored each other, that thrived through unity. The images shifted, showing the rise of the council, the slow erosion of the old ways, the growing divide between ranks. But over time, some wolves decided they deserved more power. The goddess continued, her voice heavy with disappointment. They created structures, rules, laws that elevated some and subjugated others. They claimed to speak for me, but they spoke only for themselves. She looked back at Luna. Your daughter's power threatens that structure, she said. Because when she comes into her full inheritance, every wolf will remember what they have lost. They will remember that omegas are not weak, that alphas are not infallible, that true strength comes from unity, not domination. Roman's mind reeled. So the prophecy, it's not about Luna destroying my kingdom? It is about her transforming it, the goddess corrected. Tearing down false structures and rebuilding on foundations of truth. Yes, you will lose your crown, the one the council gave you, the one built on their corrupted ideals. But you will gain something far greater. What? Roman asked, his voice barely a whisper. The goddess smiled, and it was radiant. A true kingdom. One where wolves choose their leaders not because of bloodline, but because of character. Where omegas are protected and cherished, not dismissed and controlled. Where power is shared, not hoarded. She gestured to Roman, Mia, and Luna. You three will be the first. The example. The family that shows all wolves what pack truly means. Mia's tears fell freely now. But how? The council has turned everyone against us. How do we stand against an entire kingdom? You do not stand against them, the goddess said gently. You stand with those who still remember my true teachings. There are more than you think, wolves who are tired of the council's cruelty, who yearn for the old ways. They have been waiting for a sign. For hope. She placed her ethereal hand over Luna's tiny head, and the baby glowed with soft silver light. Luna will be that hope, the goddess declared. In 7 days, when she comes into her power, she will awaken something dormant in every wolf in this kingdom, the memory of what we once were. And they will have to choose, continue living under the council's lies, or embrace the truth and rebuild. And those who choose the council? Roman asked quietly. The goddess's expression grew solemn. They will fight. They will rage. They will try to destroy what they cannot understand. But they will not win. Because truth, once awakened, cannot be silenced. She began to fade, her form dissolving back into pure moonlight. Trust in each other, she said, her voice growing distant. Trust in your pack. And trust in my daughter, your daughter. She is stronger than they know. Stronger than even you know. The light flared one final time. And Roman, the goddess added, her voice barely audible now. You are not losing your kingdom. You are gaining your destiny. Then she was gone. The grove fell silent. Roman and Mia stood frozen, processing everything they'd just witnessed, everything they'd just learned. She's real, Mia whispered, tears streaming down her face. The goddess is real, and she's on our side. Not just on our side, Roman said, looking down at Luna with new understanding. She's counting on us. On Luna. He felt the weight of that responsibility settle over him, not crushing, but grounding. Purpose-giving. His daughter wasn't a threat. She was a revolution. And he would protect her with everything he had. We need to spread the word, Mia said suddenly, her mind already working. Find the wolves who still believe in the old ways. Unite them before the 7 days are up. The council won't let us, Roman pointed out. They'll hunt us down the moment we try to gather support. Then we don't gather it openly. A fierce light entered Mia's eyes. We go underground. We use the old networks, The ones the first wolf bloodlines have kept alive in secret for centuries. The healers. The seers. The outcasts and the forgotten. Roman's wolf stirred with approval. You're talking about starting a resistance. I'm talking about starting a restoration, Mia corrected. Giving wolves back what the council stole from them. She looked at him, her silver eyes blazing. Are you with me? Roman didn't hesitate. Always. But as they left the grove, Roman's brief moment of hope shattered. Because waiting for them at the edge of the tree line were 50 council guards. And standing at their head, his expression cold and triumphant, was Counselor Kane, Thorne's second-in-command and now, apparently, the council's new leader. Well, Kane said, his voice dripping with false pleasantness. How kind of you to make this easy for us. Roman immediately pushed Mia behind him, his claws extending. You're too late, he growled. We've spoken to the goddess. We know the truth about the prophecy. Kane laughed a harsh, bitter sound. The truth, he repeated mockingly. You mean the lies a desperate Omega whispered to a broken king in a sacred grove? How touching. It wasn't a lie, Mia said fiercely. The goddess appeared to us. She told us. She told you fairy tales, Kane interrupted. The same fairy tales the first wolves used to justify their chaos and disorder. But we've evolved past such nonsense. We've built something better. Something civilized. He gestured to the guards surrounding them. And we're not going to let a half-breed child tear it all down. Roman's wolf surged forward, barely contained. You'll have to go through me first, he snarled. Oh, we will, Kane said pleasantly. But not here. You see, the council has decided that public executions send a much stronger message than quiet disappearances. Roman's blood turned to ice. We're going to make an example of you, Kane continued. Of all of you. At dawn on the 7th day, in the grand arena, before every wolf in the kingdom, you will be given one final chance to renounce the child and accept exile. And when you refuse, his smile was cruel. We will execute her in front of you. And then we will execute you for treason. No, Mia screamed, clutching Luna tighter. Take them, Kane ordered. The guards moved forward. Roman fought, goddess, how he fought. His claws tore through flesh. His teeth ripped through armor. His wolf was a whirlwind of rage and desperation. But there were too many. Silver chains wrapped around his wrists, burning his skin. Silver collars locked around his throat, choking his wolf into submission. He was forced to his knees, his body screaming in agony. And he could only watch in horror as they ripped Luna from Mia's arms. Mia's scream shattered the night. She fought like a wildcat, clawing and biting and refusing to let go. But she was weak. Still healing from childbirth, still recovering from years of the severed bond eating away at her. They restrained her easily, silver chains binding her wrists, her ankles, her throat. And then they dragged all three of them, Roman, Mia, and Luna, away from the grove. Away from hope. Toward what looked like the end of everything. The dungeons beneath the grand arena were darker than the ones in the council chambers. Colder. More hopeless. Roman and Mia were thrown into the same cell, a small mercy in an ocean of cruelty. Luna had been taken to a separate holding area, and Roman could hear her crying through the stone walls. Weak, tired, hungry cries that tore at his soul. We have to get to her, Mia sobbed, pulling uselessly at her chains. Roman, we have to. I know. Roman's voice was hollow. His hands were burned raw from the silver. His wolf was barely conscious, beaten into submission by the restraints. He'd failed. Failed as a king. Failed as a mate. Failed as a father. This is my fault, he whispered, staring at the cell floor. I should have run faster. Fought harder. I should have. Stop. Mia crawled across the cell to him, ignoring the way her chains scraped against the stone. This is not your fault. None of this is your fault. I couldn't protect you, Roman choked out. I couldn't protect Luna. What kind of alpha can't protect his own family? The kind who's been fighting an entire corrupt system alone, Mia said fiercely. She cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. Roman, you've done everything right. You remembered me. You chose us. You sought the goddess's truth. You've been brave and strong and good. And it still wasn't enough, Roman said bitterly. Mia's silver eyes filled with tears. Then we make it enough, she whispered. We don't give up. We don't let them win. We fight until our last breath, and we trust that the goddess meant what she said, that truth cannot be silenced. Roman wanted to believe her. But as Luna's cries echoed through the dungeon, and as the reality of their situation pressed down on him like a physical weight, he felt hope slipping away. 3 days passed in that cell. 3 days of Luna's cries growing weaker. 3 days of Mia's health deteriorating as the severed bond continued to poison her. 3 days of Roman plotting escapes that had no chance of succeeding. Guards came periodically to feed them, barely enough to keep them alive. They taunted. They threatened. They described in vivid detail what would happen in the arena. And through it all, Roman could only think one thing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. On the 4th day, something changed. A guard Roman didn't recognize slipped into their cell during the night shift. Roman was on his feet immediately, chains rattling, ready to fight despite his weakness. But the guard raised his hands in a peaceful gesture. I'm not here to hurt you, he said quickly, his voice low. I'm here to help. Roman's eyes narrowed. Why would you help us? Because I heard you, the guard said. In the grove. I was part of Cain's unit, but I stayed hidden in the trees. And I heard the goddess speak. Hope flickered in Roman's chest, small but real. You believe her? Mia asked, sitting up despite her exhaustion. I do, the guard said. And I'm not the only one. Word is spreading. Quietly. Carefully. But spreading. There are wolves throughout the kingdom who are questioning the council's narrative. Who want to know why they're so afraid of one baby. He glanced toward the door nervously. I don't have much time, but I needed you to know you're not alone. When the 7th day comes, when they try to execute you in the arena, there will be wolves who stand with you. Who remember the old ways. Who choose truth over fear. How many? Roman demanded. The guard hesitated. Not enough. Not yet. But every hour, more wolves are joining us. We're organizing. Planning. And on the 7th day, we fight, Roman finished, understanding dawning. The guard nodded. We fight. For Luna. For the goddess's vision. For a better kingdom. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small vial of clear liquid. This is a healing tonic, he said, passing it through the bars to Mia. It won't fix everything, but it'll give you strength for what's coming. Mia took it with shaking hands. Thank you. Thank me by surviving, the guard said. He looked at Roman. The goddess chose you for a reason, Alpha. Don't let the council make you forget that. Then he was gone, disappearing into the shadows as quickly as he'd appeared. Roman turned to Mia, and for the first time in days, he saw something other than despair in her eyes. He saw hope. We're not done yet, Mia whispered. Roman pulled her close, as much as the chains would allow. No, he agreed, his voice stronger now. We're not. The 7th day dawned cold and clear. Roman woke to the sound of guards unlocking their cell, dragging them out into the corridor. They were marched through the dungeons, up stone stairs, through massive corridors that echoed with the sounds of thousands of wolves gathering in the grand arena above. The council had made this a spectacle, a warning to any wolf who dared defy their authority. As they emerged into the arena, Roman's breath caught. The amphitheater was packed, tier upon tier of wolves, all watching, all waiting to see what would happen to the Alpha King who dared choose love over duty. And at the center of the arena, on a raised platform, stood the council. Cain at the front, holding Luna. Roman's daughter, his tiny, precious daughter, looked so small in the counselor's arms. She wasn't crying anymore. She was just still. Too still. No, no, no. Luna! Mia screamed, fighting against the guards holding her. Cain smiled coldly. Welcome, Roman, he said, his voice magically amplified to reach every corner of the arena. "Welcome to the end of your treasonous rebellion." He gestured to the crowd. "These wolves have gathered to witness justice, to see what happens when an alpha forgets his duty and indulges in selfish sentiment. They're here to watch you. They're here to witness the truth." A voice rang out. Everyone froze. Because standing at the edge of the arena, surrounded by at least 200 wolves, was Liam, Roman's head warrior, his friend, his pack. And he wasn't alone. Behind him stood Zane, Ellie, and dozens of others, warriors, healers, common wolves from every rank and territory. All armed, all ready to fight. Kane's expression darkened. "You dare. We dare," Liam interrupted, stepping forward. "Because we've heard the truth. About the prophecy. About the goddess's real message. About what you've been hiding from us for centuries." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Kane's eyes flashed with rage. "Guards. Arrest them." But the guards didn't move. Because many of them, Roman realized with dawning hope, were part of the resistance too. "You've lost, Kane," Liam said coldly. "The old ways are returning. And there's nothing you can do to stop it." Kane's face twisted with fury. "Then I'll start with the child," he snarled. He raised his hand, silver dagger glinting in the morning sun, and brought it down toward Luna. Roman moved. The silver chains shattered, not because he was strong enough to break them, but because in that moment of pure, desperate love, his wolf surged forward with power he'd never felt before. Ancient power. First wolf power. The same power Luna carried. He crossed the arena in seconds, shifting mid-leap, his massive black wolf form colliding with Kane before the blade could touch his daughter. The dagger went flying. Luna tumbled from Kane's arms, and Mia caught her, her own chains breaking as the bond between mate and child sang with protective fury. The arena erupted. Wolves who'd been waiting for this moment, who'd been secretly organizing, secretly resisting, surged forward. And the battle for the kingdom's future began. The grand arena had become a battlefield. Roman fought like a wolf possessed, claws slashing, teeth tearing, his massive form a black blur of lethal precision. Every guard who came near him fell. Every council member who raised a weapon against his family found themselves staring at their own mortality. But it wasn't just Roman fighting anymore. All around the arena, wolves were choosing sides. Liam and his warriors had formed a protective circle around Mia and Luna, holding off wave after wave of council loyalists. Zane was coordinating defensive positions with tactical precision. Ellie was using her healer's knowledge to identify weak points in the enemy's formations. And more wolves, common pack members, omegas who'd been subjugated for years, betas tired of the council's tyranny, were joining the fight every moment. The tide was turning, but not fast enough. Kane had rallied the council's elite guard, 50 of their most brutal enforcers, trained killers who'd spent decades eliminating threats to council authority. They were pushing through the resistance's defenses, cutting down Roman's allies, moving inexorably toward where Mia stood protecting Luna. "Roman," Liam shouted, his voice barely audible over the chaos. "We can't hold them much longer." Roman spun, his golden eyes finding Mia across the arena. She was on her knees, exhausted from the fighting, weakened by years of suffering and the silver chain's lingering effects. But she held Luna with fierce determination, her body a shield between their daughter and the world. Their eyes met. And through the bond, Roman felt her love, her faith, her absolute trust that he would find a way. "I won't let them take you again," he sent through their connection. "Never again." Mia's response was immediate, flooding him with warmth and strength. "I know. I believe in you. I always have." That belief, that unshakable faith, ignited something deep in Roman's soul. The council had spent 3 years trying to make him forget her. But what they'd really done was forge a bond so strong that even their darkest magic couldn't truly break it. And now that bond was fully awakened, fully alive. It was unstoppable. Roman threw back his head and released a howl that shook the very foundations of the arena. Not a call to battle, a call to pack. The howl echoed across the kingdom. Every wolf within 100 miles felt it, resonating through their bones, pulling at something primal and ancient in their souls. It wasn't just an alpha's command. It was a reminder, a memory of what pack truly meant before the council twisted it into hierarchy and control. Unity, protection, loyalty earned through love, not fear. And wolves answered. They poured into the arena from every entrance, wolves who'd been sitting in the stands, uncertain which side to choose. Wolves who'd been stationed outside, ordered to prevent anyone from leaving. Wolves who'd been living under the council's thumb for so long they'd forgotten what freedom felt like. They came because that howl awakened something in them. The same thing Luna would awaken in 7 days, when her full power manifested. But Roman was giving them a preview, showing them what was possible. A beta warrior who'd been fighting for the council suddenly froze, his sword halfway through a downward strike. His eyes widened as memories flooded back, memories of his Omega mate, dismissed and degraded by the council's laws. Memories of the love they'd been forced to hide. He lowered his weapon and turned on the council guard beside him. The same thing happened throughout the arena. Wolves who'd been loyal to the council's structure, who'd believed in the hierarchy, who'd accepted their place in the system, they were suddenly remembering. Remembering that it hadn't always been this way. Remembering that Omegas used to be revered, not subjugated. Remembering that Alphas used to lead through wisdom, not domination. Remembering the goddess's true teachings, buried under centuries of council propaganda. And one by one they chose. They chose truth. They chose the old ways. They chose pack. Cain watched his army crumble with mounting horror. No, he snarled, his carefully controlled expression finally cracking. No, you're all fools. Sheep following a false prophet. The old ways were chaos. Disorder. We gave you civilization. Structure. Purpose. But his words fell on deaf ears. Because Roman's howl, and the bond it represented, had shown the wolves something the council never could. That true purpose came from within. That true strength came from unity. That true leadership was earned through love and sacrifice, not titles and fear. Cain's elite guards were surrounded now, outnumbered 10-1 by wolves who'd finally remembered what they were fighting for. The council members on the platform looked at each other with growing panic, realizing that their centuries of control were slipping away before their eyes. This isn't over. Cain screamed, his composure completely shattered now. You think one battle changes everything? You think a prophecy makes you invincible? I'll hunt you down. All of you. He never finished. Because a massive gray wolf, Liam, in his full shifted form, leaped onto the platform and pinned Cain to the ground with one enormous paw. The counselor struggled, but Liam's jaws closed around his throat. Not biting. Not yet. Just holding. Making it clear that Cain's life hung by a thread. The arena fell silent. Every eye turned to Roman. The Alpha King, no, not king anymore. Not in the way the council had defined it. Just Roman. A father. A mate. A wolf who'd chosen love over power and found that love was the greatest power of all. He shifted back to human form, standing tall despite his wounds, despite his exhaustion. And he walked across the arena to where Mia knelt with Luna. He dropped to his knees beside them. Are you hurt? He asked softly, his hands gentle as he checked them both for injuries. Mia shook her head, tears streaming down her face. We're okay. Roman, we're okay. Luna stirred in her arms, her tiny eyes opening, and for the first time since her birth, she looked truly alive. Alert. Aware. Looking up at her father with eyes that glowed silver. Just like her mother's. Roman's heart clenched. Hello, little one, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. I'm sorry it took me so long to protect you properly. But I promise, I swear on the goddess herself, no one will ever threaten you again. Luna's tiny hand reached up, her fingers brushing his cheek. And Roman felt it. A pulse of pure, ancient power. Not destructive. Healing. The silver burns on his hands began to fade. The exhaustion weighing him down lifted. Even the wounds from the battle started to close. Luna wasn't just the heir to the first wolf bloodline. She was a healer. A unifier. Everything the goddess had promised. Mia gasped, feeling it too through their bond. Roman, she's perfect. Roman finished. She's perfect. He stood, still holding Mia close with one arm, Luna cradled between them. And he turned to face the thousands of wolves watching. I know what you're thinking, Roman began, his voice carrying clearly through the now silent arena. You're thinking that I'm a traitor. That I abandoned my duty. That I chose personal happiness over the kingdom's stability. He paused, letting the words settle. And you're right. I did choose my family. I chose love. I chose to defy a corrupt system that demanded I sacrifice my own daughter for the sake of maintaining power. He gestured to Luna. But here's what the council never told you. That sacrifice they demanded? It was never about protecting the kingdom. It was about protecting themselves. Their authority. Their control. Their version of order that elevates some wolves and crushes others. A murmur rippled through the crowd. The prophecy they fear so much? Roman continued. It's not about destruction. It's about restoration. My daughter, Luna, carries the bloodline of the first wolves. The ones who lived in harmony with the goddess. The ones who knew that every wolf, regardless of rank, deserves respect and dignity. He looked directly at the council members cowering on the platform. They've been lying to you for centuries, Roman said, his voice hardening. Telling you that omegas are weak. That alphas are superior. That the hierarchy is divine law. But I spoke to the goddess herself. And she told me the truth, that we've strayed so far from her teachings that we've forgotten what pack truly means. Silence. Absolute, breathless silence. So here's my choice, Roman said. The choice the prophecy demands. The choice between crown and blood. He reached up and removed the golden circlet from his head, the symbol of his kingship, the mark of his authority. And he threw it on the ground. I choose my family, he declared. I choose truth over lies. I choose the goddess's real vision over the council's corruption. And if that means I'm no longer your king, you'll always be our king. The voice came from the crowd. Roman turned to see an elderly Omega stepping forward, a healer, judging by the herb pouches at her belt. You're the first alpha in 300 years who's cared more about protecting wolves than ruling them, she said, her voice wavering but strong. You're the first king who's chosen love over power. That's the kind of leader we need. She's right, another voice called out, a young beta warrior. The council has been using us, pitting us against each other, making us think our rank defines our worth. My Omega mate was taken from me because the council said I wasn't high-ranking enough to keep her, another wolf shouted, his voice breaking. They said it was for the good of the bloodlines. But all they did was destroy our happiness. More voices rose, sharing stories of the council's cruelty. Of forced separations. Of Omegas treated like property. Of alphas punished for showing compassion. Of betas trapped in the middle, never allowed to rise or fall. The dam had broken, and centuries of resentment came flooding out. Roman felt Mia's hand slip into his, her fingers intertwining with his own. You did it, she whispered. You showed them the truth. We did it, Roman corrected. You never gave up on me, even when I'd forgotten you. You trusted in the goddess's plan when I couldn't see it. You're the one who saved us all. Mia's silver eyes shimmered. We saved each other. Luna cooed between them, as if agreeing. And Roman felt something shift in the arena. The bond between him and his pack, the one that had been fracturing since the prophecy began to manifest, it wasn't breaking anymore. It was transforming. Becoming something new. Something stronger. Something built on choice instead of obligation. On love instead of hierarchy. On truth instead of control. But the moment of peace shattered when Cain finally spoke. Touching, the counselor spat, Liam's jaws still at his throat. Truly moving. But you're all deluding yourselves if you think one inspirational speech changes reality. He managed to twist his head enough to glare at the crowd. The other kingdoms won't accept this revolution, Cain snarled. The packs beyond our borders still follow the traditional hierarchies. They'll see Luna as a threat, just like we do. And they'll come for her. They'll come for all of you. Roman's jaw clenched. Because Cain had a point. The council's influence extended far beyond this kingdom. There were dozens of other territories, hundreds of other packs, all following the same corrupted system. And they wouldn't give up their power without a fight. So, what do you propose? Roman asked coldly. We surrender? Let you kill my daughter to maintain your precious order. I propose you face reality, Cain shot back. You've won this battle. Congratulations. But the war? You can't win it. Not against every pack in the continent. Not against centuries of tradition. Not against the natural order. There's nothing natural about what you've done, Mia interrupted, her voice ringing with authority that silenced even Cain. The goddess herself condemned your system. Your order is built on lies and oppression. And just because it's old doesn't make it right. She stepped forward, still holding Luna, her silver eyes blazing. You want to talk about war? She continued. Fine. Let them come. Let every pack that still clings to the council's corruption come test themselves against wolves who fight for love, for family, for freedom. Let them see what happens when you face an army united by choice instead of fear. Murmurs of approval rippled through the crowd. She's right. Liam growled, finally releasing Cain's throat but keeping him pinned. I've spent 20 years fighting for this kingdom. And I've never fought with more purpose than I did today. Not because I was ordered to, but because I chose to. Because I believe in what Roman and Mia represent. Zane stepped forward next. The Council's intelligence network is vast, yes. But so is ours. And now that we're not hiding, now that we can operate openly, we can reach out to wolves in other territories. Show them what's possible. Give them the same choice we had. Revolution can't be stopped once it starts, Ellie added, her healer's wisdom carrying weight. The goddess planted a seed today. In 7 days, when Luna comes into her full power, that seed will bloom. And its roots will spread to every pack that's ever questioned the council's authority. The crowd was growing louder now, more confident, more unified. Cain's face twisted with impotent rage. You're all signing your own death warrants. Maybe, Roman said calmly. Or maybe we're finally living the way the goddess intended. Either way. He looked at Mia, at Luna, at the wolves surrounding them. We face it together. As pack. As family. As wolves who refuse to let fear dictate our future. He turned to Liam. Take Cain and the other council members into custody. We'll hold a trial, a real one, with representatives from every rank, not just their hand-picked cronies. And if they're found guilty? Liam asked. Then they'll face justice, Roman said. Real justice. Not the mockery they've been dispensing for centuries. Liam grinned. With pleasure. As Cain and the remaining council members were dragged away, the crowd erupted in cheers. But Roman knew this was just the beginning. The hardest part was still to come. In 7 days, Luna would manifest her full power. And when she did, the transformation the goddess had described would ripple across the entire kingdom, possibly beyond. Wolves would remember. They would question. They would choose. And those who chose wrong, who clung to the old hierarchies, who preferred oppression to freedom, would become enemies. We need to prepare, Roman said to his inner circle, Liam, Zane, Ellie, and several other wolves who'd proven themselves in battle. Fortify our positions. Reach out to potential allies. And most importantly, protect Luna. Where will you go? Ellie asked. The palace isn't safe. Too many entry points. Too exposed. The Alpha's cabin, Mia suggested. The one where Roman found us. It's warded, secluded, and defensible. Roman nodded. Good thinking. Liam, I'll need your best warriors as guards. Zane, start mapping out which territories are most likely to side with us and which will oppose us. Ellie. I know, the healer interrupted with a small smile. Keep Mia and Luna healthy. Monitor the baby's development. Make sure she's strong enough for what's coming. Exactly. They worked through the logistics quickly, efficiently. Roman had always been a strategic leader, but now he had something he'd never had before as king. People who followed him not because they had to, but because they wanted to, because they believed in what he was fighting for. It made all the difference. That night, as Roman, Mia, and Luna settled into the cabin, guarded by 24 loyal warriors outside, Roman finally allowed himself to breathe. They'd survived. Against impossible odds, against an entire system designed to crush them, they'd survived. And more than that, they'd won. Not the war. Not yet. But the first battle. The one that mattered most. Mia was feeding Luna a mixture Ellie had prepared, something to help strengthen the baby's still developing body. The infant drank eagerly, her silver eyes bright and alert. She's getting stronger every day, Mia observed, wonder in her voice. Can you feel it? Through the bond. Roman could. Luna's presence in his consciousness was growing, becoming more defined. Not just his daughter anymore. His pack. The goddess said she'd awaken something in every wolf, Roman said quietly. I felt it today. When I howled. It was like I was touching every soul in the kingdom. Reminding them of who they really are. That's what Luna will do, Mia said softly. But permanently. Once her power fully manifests, wolves won't be able to hide from the truth anymore. They'll remember the old ways whether they want to or not. And some will hate her for it, Roman said, the weight of that reality settling over him. Some will, Mia agreed. But others will love her. Will see her as the hope they've been waiting for. And those wolves, the ones who choose truth, they'll be our foundation. The beginning of something better. Roman moved closer, wrapping his arms around both of them. I was so lost without you, he confessed. Those 3 years, even though I didn't remember you, I felt empty. Like something vital was missing. I threw myself into being the perfect king, the perfect alpha, because I didn't know what else to do. But it was never enough. Nothing was ever enough. Mia leaned into him, careful not to disturb Luna. You were never supposed to be the council's king, Roman. You were always meant to be something more. Something better. But you needed to lose everything to find your true purpose. My true purpose, Roman repeated, looking down at Luna. Being a father. A mate. A leader who serves instead of rules. Yes. Mia's smile was soft and proud. The goddess knew what she was doing when she brought us together. Even when the council tried to tear us apart, even when they stole your memories, the bond remained. Waiting. Ready to be awakened when the time was right. I'll never let them take you again, Roman vowed. Either of you. No matter what comes in the next 7 days, no matter how many enemies we face. I know, Mia interrupted gently. I've always known. From the moment you marked me in that garden, I knew you'd protect me with your life. That's who you are, Roman. Not because you're an alpha. Because you're you. Roman kissed her then, soft and reverent and full of 3 years of longing. When they finally pulled apart, Luna was watching them with those impossibly wise silver eyes. And Roman could have sworn she was smiling. The next morning, Zane arrived with news. We've had responses from 3 territories already, he reported, spreading maps across the cabin's table. The Northern Highlands are willing to hear us out. They've had issues with the council's interference in their pack dynamics for years. And the others? Roman asked. The Eastern Valleys are cautiously interested. But the Southern Territories. Zane's expression darkened. They've declared you an enemy of all wolfkind. They're mobilizing their forces. And they're calling on other packs to join them. Roman's jaw clenched. How many? At least 5 territories. Maybe more. Could be looking at an army of 10,000 wolves within the month. 10,000. Against their few hundred. The odds were not good. Then we need to move faster, Roman said. Reach out to every pack that's ever felt oppressed by the council. Show them that change is possible. That they don't have to live under tyranny anymore. We're trying, Zane said. But Roman, some wolves don't want change. They're comfortable with the hierarchy. It gives them power, status, security. Asking them to give that up. I'm not asking them to give up anything except their cruelty, Roman interrupted. The goddess's vision doesn't eliminate rank. It just removes the oppression attached to it. Alphas can still lead. Betas can still serve. Omegas can still nurture. But no one is worth less because of what they were born as. I understand that, Zane said carefully. But you need to understand that not everyone will see it that way. Some wolves have built their entire identity around being better than others. Luna's power will strip that away. And they'll fight to keep it. Roman knew Zane was right. This was going to get worse before it got better. But he also knew that backing down wasn't an option. Not anymore. Keep reaching out, Roman ordered. Every wolf who joins us makes us stronger. Every pack that chooses truth over lies shifts the balance in our favor. We have 7 days before Luna's power manifests. Let's make them count. Zane nodded and left to continue his work. Roman turned to find Mia watching him with a mixture of pride and concern. You're worried, she observed. Terrified, Roman admitted. We're about to face an army. And we're asking wolves to fundamentally change how they see the world. That's a lot. It is, Mia agreed. She crossed to him, Luna in her arms. But we're not doing it alone. The goddess is with us. Our pack is with us. And most importantly, she placed Luna in Roman's arms. We have something worth fighting for. Something pure and true and impossible to corrupt. As long as we remember that, as long as we keep fighting for love and family and freedom, we can't truly lose. Roman looked down at his daughter, at the tiny being who represented everything the goddess had intended for wolfkind. And he felt his resolve harden into something unbreakable. Then let them come, he said quietly. Let every pack that still worships power over love come test themselves against us. Because we're not just fighting for Luna's life anymore. He looked up at Mia, his golden eyes blazing. We're fighting for the soul of our entire species. The 7 days passed in a blur of preparation, negotiation, and growing tension. More territories declared their allegiance, both for and against Roman's cause. The kingdom was splitting, fracturing along lines that had been invisible until now. Those who'd suffered under the council's rule flocked to Roman's banner. Those who'd benefited from it rallied to oppose him. And in the middle were thousands of wolves who simply didn't know what to believe anymore. By the 6th day, both sides had amassed considerable forces. The resistance, Roman's pack, as they were now calling themselves, numbered nearly 2,000 wolves from various territories and ranks. United not by blood or hierarchy, but by choice and belief. The opposition, led by the southern territories and remnants of the council's most loyal supporters, had gathered over 8,000, still outnumbering them 4-1. The battle would take place at dawn on the 7th day, right as Luna's power was prophesied to fully manifest. Are you scared? Mia asked Roman the night before, as they lay together in the cabin with Luna sleeping peacefully between them. Yes, Roman admitted. But not of dying. I'm scared of failing. Of letting Luna grow up in a world that hates her for what she represents. Of not being strong enough to protect you both. Mia's hand found his in the darkness. You've already protected us, she said softly. You broke through impossible magic to remember me. You defied an entire system to save Luna. You started a revolution with nothing but love and conviction. Roman, you've done everything right. But what if it's not enough? Then we'll have died trying to make the world better, Mia said simply. And our daughter will know, through the bond, through the stories that survive us, that her parents loved her enough to fight the whole world for her. That's not failure, Roman. That's legacy. Roman pulled her closer, breathing in her scent, vanilla and rain and wild sage, the scent he'd been missing for 3 years without knowing it. I love you, he whispered. I love you more than crowns or kingdoms or anything this world has to offer. I know, Mia said, and he could hear the smile in her voice. That's why we're going to win. Dawn broke clear and cold on the seventh day. Roman stood on a hill overlooking the battlefield, a vast plain where both armies had gathered. On one side, his wolves, smaller in number but burning with purpose. On the other, the enemy, massive, organized, and utterly convinced of their righteousness. Between them, a no-man's land where the fate of their species would be decided. Mia stood beside him, Luna in her arms. The baby was awake and alert, her silver eyes fixed on the sunrise. It's time, Mia whispered. Roman felt it too, through the bond, through his connection to Luna, through something deeper and older than consciousness. The prophecy was about to complete. Luna was about to come into her power, and the world would never be the same. The sun crested the horizon, bathing the battlefield in golden light, and Luna began to glow. It started as a faint shimmer around her tiny body, silver light that pulsed in time with her heartbeat. Then it grew brighter, stronger, spreading outward like ripples on water. Roman felt it surge through the bond, ancient power awakening, the bloodline of the first wolves asserting itself after centuries of dormancy. Roman, Mia breathed, her voice filled with awe and terror. It's happening. The light expanded, washing over Roman first, then Mia, then spreading down the hill toward their assembled forces. And everywhere it touched, wolves remembered. Liam was the first to fall to his knees. The massive warrior's eyes went wide, tears streaming down his scarred face as memories flooded his mind, not his own memories, but something deeper. Ancestral memories. He saw the first wolves running beneath a full moon, their howls harmonizing with the goddess's song. He saw alphas and omegas working together, neither superior nor inferior, just different expressions of the same divine purpose. He saw packs that functioned like families instead of militaries, where strength was measured in compassion rather than dominance. He saw what they were supposed to be. Goddess above, Liam whispered, his voice breaking. We've been so lost. For so long, we've been so lost. Around him, other wolves were having the same experience. A beta warrior remembered his grandmother's stories about the old ways, stories he dismissed as fantasy, but now understood were history. Truth. An omega healer remembered why her kind had once been revered as the pack's heart, the ones who kept everyone connected and grounded, before the council had twisted that into weakness. Even the younger wolves, who'd never questioned the hierarchy, suddenly knew in their bones that something fundamental had been wrong with their world. Luna's light kept spreading across the battlefield, toward the enemy. The opposing army began to stir. Confusion rippled through their ranks as the silver light reached them, bringing the same revelations, the same memories, the same truth. But their reactions were different. Some wolves dropped their weapons immediately, the same understanding dawning on their faces. They saw what Liam saw, the beauty of what they'd lost, the horror of what they'd become. But others fought it. "No," a Southern Territory commander roared, shaking his head violently as if he could physically reject the visions. "This is a trick. Dark magic. Don't listen to it." He wasn't wrong about it being magic, but it wasn't dark. It was the purest magic there was. Truth. The goddess's truth, channeled through Luna's innocent, untainted soul. And truth couldn't be controlled or corrupted or bent to anyone's will. It simply was. "She's poisoning our minds," another enemy alpha shouted, his eyes wild with panic. "The child is trying to destroy everything we've built. Attack. Attack before it's too late." He lunged forward, shifting mid-stride into a massive brown wolf. And dozens of others followed him, wolves so committed to the old hierarchy, so dependent on their elevated status, so terrified of losing their power that they would rather fight than face what they'd become. The battle began. Roman shifted instantly, his black wolf form intercepting the first attacker before he could reach the hill where Mia stood with Luna. His jaws closed around the brown wolf's throat, but he didn't kill, not yet. He simply held, dominated, forced the enemy to feel the strength behind Roman's conviction. This is what you're fighting for, his wolf seemed to say. Fear and control. Is that really worth dying for? The brown wolf's eyes widened as the question penetrated his rage. And Roman released him. The wolf scrambled back, confused, conflicted, then ran. Not toward the fight, but away from it entirely. Roman had given him a choice. And he'd chosen to leave. One down. Thousands to go. Liam was beside Roman in seconds, his gray wolf form massive and scarred and utterly loyal. Orders. Liam's voice came through the pack bond they all now shared deeper and stronger than before, reinforced by Luna's awakening power. Defend, Roman sent back. But don't kill unless absolutely necessary. Give them the choice. Some of them just need time to understand. And the ones who refuse to understand? Zane's voice joined the bond, sharp and practical. Then we do what we must, Roman said grimly. But we don't become the thing we're fighting against. We don't kill for the sake of power or control. Only for protection. His wolves understood. And they spread out across the battlefield with a discipline and coordination that shouldn't have been possible for such a hastily assembled force. But Luna's power was working through them now, connecting them, unifying them, making them truly pack in a way the Council's hierarchy never could. The battle was unlike anything Roman had ever experienced. It wasn't just physical combat, claws and teeth and blood on the grass. It was a battle of beliefs. Every exchange, every confrontation became a test. Would the enemy choose to keep fighting for a system that oppressed them? Or would they accept the truth Luna's power was showing them? Roman saw it happening in real time across the battlefield. A young beta from the eastern valleys was fighting one of Roman's warriors until Luna's light intensified around them both. The beta suddenly stopped mid-strike, his eyes filling with tears as he remembered his Omega sister, taken by the Council and forcibly bonded to an alpha she didn't love. He dropped his weapon and joined Roman's side. But not everyone converted. A grizzled alpha commander from the Southern Territories, his face twisted with rage and denial, was cutting through Roman's forces with brutal efficiency. He'd built his entire life around being superior, around commanding others, around the power his rank gave him. And he would rather die than give that up. You're destroying the natural order, he howled, his claws slashing toward a younger wolf. Wolves need hierarchy, need structure. Without it, we're just animals. We are animals. Mia's voice rang out across the battlefield, magically amplified somehow, maybe by Luna's power, maybe by the goddess herself. We're wolves, children of the moon. And we were never meant to cage each other with false rules and corrupt systems. She stood on the hill, still holding Luna, the baby's silver light blazing around them both like a beacon. The goddess gave us instincts. Mia continued, her voice fierce and clear. To protect the pack, to nurture the young, to follow the moon's guidance. She gave us ranks not to divide us, but to show us different ways to serve the whole. But you twisted that gift into a weapon. You made it about power instead of purpose. Luna's light pulsed brighter with each word, and Roman felt the truth of Mia's speech resonating through every wolf on the battlefield. Even the enemies were listening now. Even those still fighting were hesitating. Look at your Omegas, Mia shouted. The ones you've subjugated and controlled. They carry the next generation. They heal your wounds. They hold your packs together when everything else falls apart. How is that weakness? Several Omega wolves in the enemy army started crying, not from sadness, but from relief. From finally hearing someone speak the truth they'd always known but been told to deny. Look at your betas, Mia continued. The ones you've trapped in the middle. Neither powerful enough to lead nor weak enough to be dismissed. They're your warriors, your teachers, your bridges between extremes. How is that lesser? Beta wolves on both sides were nodding now, their weapons lowering. And look at your alphas. Mia's voice softened, but didn't lose its intensity. You were meant to be protectors. Guides. The ones who shield the pack from danger and lead with wisdom. But the council corrupted that into domination and control. They made you think love was weakness, that compassion was failure, that the only way to lead was through fear. She looked directly at Roman, her silver eyes shining with love and pride. But my mate, the Alpha King who gave up his crown for his daughter, he showed you the truth. That real strength comes from sacrifice. That real leadership means serving others before yourself. That real power is the kind that uplifts instead of crushing. Roman felt something crack open in his chest, not breaking, but expanding. Like his heart had been too small to contain everything he felt, and now it was growing to accommodate the impossible depth of his love for Mia, for Luna, for every wolf who'd chosen to stand with them. So choose, Mia demanded, her voice ringing with divine authority. Choose the goddess's true vision, or choose the council's lies. Choose freedom or choose oppression. Choose to be the wolves we were always meant to be, or choose to keep living in the cage they built for us. Luna's light exploded outward, a wave of pure, undeniable truth that washed over every single wolf on the battlefield. And the enemy army shattered. Thousands of wolves dropped their weapons. Not surrendering, converting. They'd felt it. Through Luna's power, through Mia's words, through the bond that connected all wolves whether they acknowledged it or not. They'd felt the truth. And they couldn't deny it anymore. The grizzled Southern Territory commander stood alone now, his forces abandoning him, joining Roman's side in droves. Traitors, he screamed, his voice hoarse with desperation. Traitors. All of you. You're destroying everything. Everything. Roman shifted back to human form and walked toward the commander calmly, deliberately. We're not destroying anything, Roman said quietly. We're rebuilding. Creating something better from the ruins of what the council corrupted. There's nothing better than order, the commander spat. Nothing better than knowing your place. Than having structure and rules and fear. Roman interrupted. Is that what you mean? Nothing better than living in fear of stepping out of line? Nothing better than watching wolves suffer because they were born the wrong rank. The commander's face twisted. You don't understand. Without the hierarchy, without the rules, wolves will tear each other apart. We need control. You need love, Mia said softly, appearing beside Roman with Luna in her arms. The commander's eyes went to the baby, and for just a moment, his expression faltered. Because Luna was looking at him with those wise silver eyes, not with judgment or hatred, but with simple, innocent compassion. And through her power, the commander suddenly saw himself as she saw him. Not a monster. Just a wolf who'd been taught wrong. Who'd built his entire identity on lies. Who was terrified that without the hierarchy defining him, he'd be nothing. You are not nothing. Luna's power seemed to whisper directly into his soul, not words, but feelings. Pure emotional truth. You are a child of the goddess. You are Pac. You are loved, even if you've forgotten how to love yourself. The commander's legs gave out. He collapsed his knees, his face crumpling, decades of rigid control finally breaking under the weight of unconditional acceptance. I don't know how to be anything else, he choked out. This is all I've ever known. Then learn, Roman said gently, crouching beside him. We'll all learn together. How to be Pac without oppression. How to lead without domination. How to honor our ranks without using them as weapons. He extended his hand. You can choose differently. Starting now. The commander stared at Roman's hand for a long moment. Then, slowly, hesitantly, he took it. The battlefield fell silent. What should have been a bloodbath had become something else entirely. A transformation. A revolution that happened not through violence and force, but through truth and choice and the irresistible power of love. 8,000 wolves who'd come to destroy Luna now stood on the same side as those who'd come to protect her. United. Whole. Pac. Roman looked around at the assembled forces, warriors and healers, alphas and omegas and betas, old wolves and young, from dozens of different territories and backgrounds. All of them connected now through Luna's awakened power. All of them remembering what they were meant to be. "This is just the beginning," Roman called out, his voice carrying across the silent field. "There are still territories that will resist. Still wolves who will cling to the old ways. Still battles to fight and hearts to change." He pulled Mia close, looked down at Luna. "But we've proven something today. We've proven that change is possible. That the goddess's vision isn't just a dream, it's a reality we can build together." Liam stepped forward, his gray wolf form shifting back to human. "What do you need from us, Alpha?" he asked. Roman smiled at the title, not because it represented authority over others, but because it represented his role in the pack. Protector, guide, servant to those he led. "I need you to spread the word," Roman said. "Go back to your territories. Share what happened here. Show other wolves that the goddess's true teachings aren't about control or hierarchy, they're about unity and love." He looked at the former enemies who'd converted during the battle. "Go home and tell your packs what you saw, what you felt. Give them the choice we gave you. And if they choose truth, welcome them. If they choose lies, let them go. We won't force anyone to change, but we will show them a better way." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. "What about the council?" Zane asked. "The ones still in custody?" "They'll stand trial," Roman said, "with representatives from every rank judging them. If they're found guilty of crimes against woolkind, and they will be, they'll face appropriate consequences." "Death," someone called out. Roman hesitated, then shook his head. "Exile," he said. "We take away their power, their influence, their ability to hurt others. But we don't become executioners. We're better than that." Some wolves looked disappointed. Others looked relieved. But all of them understood. This new pack, this new way of being, it couldn't be built on more bloodshed. It had to be built on something better. As the sun climbed higher, the wolves began to disperse. Not scattering in defeat, but spreading out in purpose, carrying the message, sharing the truth, planting seeds of change in territories across the continent. Roman watched them go, Mia's hand in his, Luna quiet and content between them. "Do you think it'll work?" Mia asked softly. "Do you think we can really change centuries of corruption?" "I don't know," Roman admitted. "But I know we have to try. And I know Luna gave us a chance. A real chance to make things right." Luna chose that moment to look up at both of them, her silver eyes bright and alert. And through the bond, that beautiful, impossible bond connecting all three of them, Roman felt his daughter's first conscious thought. Not words, exactly. More like pure emotion and intention, translated into something his mind could understand. Safe. Loved. Home. Roman's eyes burned with tears. "Yeah, little one," he whispered, touching her tiny cheek. "You're safe. You're loved. And you're home." Mia leaned against him, exhaustion and relief making her sway. "What now?" she asked. "We can't go back to the palace. We can't be the Alpha King and his mate, not in the way the council defined it." "No," Roman agreed. "We can't. But maybe that's okay. Maybe we need something new. Not a king on a throne ruling from above, but a family living among the pack, leading by example instead of decree." He looked at the cabin in the distance, the small, humble building where they'd found shelter when everything else had been stripped away. "That's home now," he said, "for as long as we need it. And when Luna's older, when she's ready to step into her power fully, we'll figure out what comes next. Together." Mia smiled, tired but genuine. "Together," she echoed. They returned to the cabin to find it surrounded by wolves. Not enemies, supporters. Dozens of wolves from their army who'd insisted on standing guard, on making sure their Alpha's family was protected while they rested. Liam was organizing patrol schedules. Ellie was setting up a makeshift healer's station. Zane was coordinating with scouts from various territories. They'd created a community without anyone giving orders. Because that's what pack meant. "You all should rest," Roman called out as they approached. "The battle's over." "The war isn't," Liam countered with a grin. We've still got holdout territories to deal with, council remnants to track down, and a whole new society to build. No rest for any of us, Alpha. Roman wanted to argue, but looking at the determination on his warriors' faces, he knew it would be pointless. These wolves had found purpose, and they weren't letting go of it. Fine, Roman relented. But at least eat something. Ellie, make sure everyone's wounds are treated. And someone needs to send word to the Northern Highlands, let them know what happened here. They deserve to know their alliance meant something. Orders were given, tasks delegated, the community functioning like a well-oiled machine. And Roman realized something profound. He hadn't stopped being an alpha. He'd just become the right kind of alpha. The kind the goddess always intended. That night, as Luna slept peacefully between them, Mia turned to Roman with a question he'd been expecting. What do we tell her? She asked quietly. When she's old enough to understand. What do we say about the council, about the prophecy, about everything she went through before she could even speak? Roman was silent for a long moment, thinking. We tell her the truth, he finally said. That she was born into a broken world. That powerful wolves tried to kill her because they feared what she represented. That her parents fought an entire kingdom to keep her safe. He pulled Mia closer. But we also tell her that she changed everything. That her existence, her power, her pure heart, it reminded an entire species what we were supposed to be. That she healed wounds that had been festering for centuries. That she brought wolves home to themselves. His voice grew softer, more emotional. We tell her that she's not just our daughter. She's hope. She's proof that even the most corrupted systems can be transformed if people are willing to fight for truth. She's a living reminder that love is stronger than fear, that family is stronger than hierarchy, that the goddess never abandoned us. We abandoned her teachings, and Luna helped us find our way back. Mia's tears fell silently. That's a lot of weight to put on a child, she whispered. It is, Roman agreed. But we won't let her carry it alone. She'll have us. She'll have the pack. She'll have an entire community of wolves who owe their freedom to her existence. And if anyone ever makes her feel like a burden or a threat, his eyes flashed gold. They'll answer to me. Mia smiled through her tears. And to me. And to an entire pack of wolves who've learned that protecting the innocent isn't weakness, Roman added. It's our highest calling. Luna stirred between them, as if she'd heard every word and approved. And through the bond, Roman felt his daughter's contentment. She didn't understand the words yet, but she understood that she was loved. Fiercely, completely, unconditionally. And in the end, that was all any child really needed. Weeks turned into months. The transformation Luna had begun on that battlefield continued to ripple outward, touching territories across the continent. Some embraced it immediately, packs where omegas had long suffered, where betas had been trapped, where alphas had grown weary of the council's demands. Others resisted, territories still clinging to the old hierarchies, still believing in the superiority of rank, still terrified that equality meant chaos. But slowly, inexorably, the balance shifted. Because Luna's power hadn't just awakened memories. It had awakened hope. And hope, once planted, was nearly impossible to kill. Roman spent his days traveling between territories, mediating disputes, helping packs transition from the old ways to the new. He wasn't a king anymore, not in title. But he was a leader. A guide. An alpha who'd proven he'd sacrifice everything for what was right. And wolves listened. Mia worked with healers across the kingdom, re-establishing the ancient networks that had once made omegas the respected heart of pack society. She taught them about the first wolf traditions, about the healing arts that had been suppressed by the council, about how to use their voices and their gifts without fear. And Luna grew. Strong and bright and impossibly wise for her age. By her first birthday, she could already shift, not into a full wolf, but into a hybrid form that blended human and wolf characteristics. Silver fur covered her tiny body, and her eyes glowed with the goddess's light. She was extraordinary, and she was loved by thousands. On Luna's first birthday, they held a celebration. Not in a palace or grand arena. In the clearing near the cabin, surrounded by the pack that had become their family. Hundreds of wolves attended, some from territories near and far, all wanting to see the child who'd changed their world. There were games and stories and food shared freely among all ranks. Alphas played with Omega children. Betas taught warriors new techniques. Everyone was equal, everyone was valued, everyone was pack. As Roman watched Luna toddle around the clearing, her hybrid form making her both adorable and powerful, he felt Mia's hand slip into his. "We did it," she whispered. "Against all odds, we actually did it." "You did it," Roman corrected. "You never gave up on me. On us. On the goddess's vision. Even when everything seemed impossible. We did it together," Mia insisted. She looked up at him, her silver eyes soft. "That's what matters. Not who did more or who was stronger. Just that we faced it together and refused to break." Roman kissed her forehead. "I love you," he said simply. "More than I thought possible. More than I have words for." "I know," Mia smiled. "I can feel it. Every moment. Through the bond. It's like breathing. Essential. Constant. Perfect." Luna chose that moment to run to them, her little arms outstretched, her face lit with pure joy. "Mama. Papa. Up." Roman scooped her up, and she giggled, that beautiful, innocent sound that made everything they'd fought for worthwhile. "Having fun, little wolf?" he asked, bouncing her gently. "Yes," Luna declared, then pointed at Liam, who was currently being mobbed by a pack of children demanding he show them his scars. "Big Wolf funny." "Big Wolf is definitely funny," Mia agreed, laughing. They stood there, the three of them, watching their pack celebrate not just Luna's birthday, but their collective freedom, their new beginning, their reclaimed identity. And Roman felt something he hadn't felt in years. Not as the Alpha King trying to live up to impossible expectations. Not as a mate separated from his bond, aching with emptiness he couldn't name. But as a father, a husband, a wolf who'd found his true purpose. He felt complete. As the celebration wound down and the sun began to set, Roman stood on the edge of the clearing, looking out at his pack. Wolves were mingling without regard to rank, alphas and omegas sharing stories, betas teaching youngsters, everyone just being. Together. United. Free. This was what the goddess had wanted all along. This was what Luna had awakened in them. This was home. Beautiful, isn't it? Roman turned to find an elderly Omega, the same one who'd spoken up during the battle, standing beside him. "It is," he agreed. "I never thought I'd see it in my lifetime," she said softly, her eyes glistening with tears. "A world where my granddaughter won't be treated as lesser. Where she'll be valued for her gifts instead of dismissed because of her rank." She looked at Roman. "Thank you," she said. "For fighting for us. For all of us." Roman shook his head. "You don't have to thank me. This is what should have always been." "Maybe," the elder agreed. "But you made it happen. You and your mate and your extraordinary daughter. You proved that one family, fighting with love instead of fear, could change the world." She patted his arm gently. "Never forget that, young Alpha. In the hard days ahead, and there will be hard days, never forget that loved one. That truth conquered lies. That the goddess's vision prevailed." She walked away before Roman could respond, leaving him with those words echoing in his mind. Love won. It had. Against impossible odds, against centuries of corruption, against an entire system designed to crush them. Love had won. And as Roman looked at Mia playing with Luna, at their pack celebrating together, at the future they were building one day at a time, he knew that no crown, no kingdom, no amount of power could ever compare to this. To family. To pack. To home. 5 years later. Roman stood at the edge of the training grounds, watching as Luna, now a bright, energetic 5-year-old, sparred with children twice her age. She moved with a grace that shouldn't have been possible for someone so young, her silver eyes tracking every movement, her hybrid form perfectly balanced between human intelligence and wolf instinct. She was extraordinary. But more importantly, she was happy. "She's getting faster," Mia observed, appearing beside Roman with 2 cups of tea. She handed him one, her fingers brushing his in that casual intimacy they'd developed over years of being perfectly in sync. "She's getting everything faster," Roman said with a mixture of pride and concern. "Ellie says she's developing abilities we've never seen before. Healing, yes, but also connection. She can feel every wolf in the pack, know what they need before they ask." "Like the goddess," Mia said softly. "That's what the first wolves could do. Feel the pack's needs and respond." "Luna's not just inheriting power, Roman. She's inheriting purpose." Roman watched as Luna helped a younger pup who'd fallen during the sparring, her tiny hands glowing with soft silver light as she healed a scraped knee. The pup's face lit up with wonder, and Luna giggled, clearly delighted she could help. "She has your heart," Roman said to Mia. "Your compassion. Your instinct to heal. And your strength," Mia countered. "Your conviction. Your willingness to stand up for what's right no matter the cost." "Then she's going to be unstoppable," Roman said, and there was no fear in his voice anymore. Only pride. Liam approached, his gray hair now streaked with more silver than before, but his strength undiminished by time. "Delegates from the Western Shores just arrived," he reported. "They're requesting an audience. Seems they've finally decided to join the Alliance." Roman's eyebrows rose. "The Western Shores? They've been holdouts for 3 years. Not anymore," Liam grinned. Apparently, word of Luna's healing abilities reached them. One of their high-ranking alphas was dying from silver poisoning, council punishment from the old days. They're hoping she might be able to help. Roman looked at Mia, who nodded. "We'll meet with them," Roman said. "But make it clear Luna isn't a tool to be used. If she chooses to heal their alpha, it's her choice. Not ours. Not theirs." "Understood," Liam said, then hesitated. "Roman, there's something else. The scouts report that Kane escaped custody 2 days ago." Roman's entire body tensed. "How?" "Inside help, looks like. One of the guards at the exile camp. Turns out he'd been a council loyalist all along. They found his body this morning. Kane killed him after he helped with the escape." "Where's he now?" Roman's voice had dropped into that dangerous alpha tone that made even Liam straighten. "Unknown. But Roman." Liam's expression darkened. "He left a message carved into the guard cell. Just 2 words, not finished." Mia's hand found Roman's, squeezing tight. "He's coming for Luna," she whispered. "Let him try," Roman growled. But beneath the bravado, he felt the familiar fear, that primal terror every parent knows when their child is threatened. "Double the patrols," he ordered. "I want eyes on every approach to this territory. And I want Zane tracking Kane's movements. Use every contact we have. Find him before he finds us." Liam nodded and departed quickly. Roman turned to Mia, seeing his own fear reflected in her silver eyes. "We knew there would be wolves who never accepted the change," Mia said quietly. "Kane built his entire identity on the Council's power. Without it, he's nothing. Of course he'd want revenge." "He won't get near her," Roman said fiercely. "I'll tear him apart before." "Papa." Luna's voice cut through his rising anger. She was running toward them, her hybrid form making her faster than any normal child, her face bright with excitement. "Papa, did you see? I won 3 times. And I helped Micah with his knee. His mama said I was very gentle." Roman's fierce expression melted instantly. He crouched down, catching Luna as she launched herself into his arms. "I saw, little wolf," he said, holding her close. "You were amazing. Strong and compassionate, just like you should be." Luna beamed, then looked at Mia. "Mama, can we practice the healing songs tonight?" The ones Grandma Ellie taught us. Of course, sweetheart, Mia said, stroking Luna's silver hair. But first, you need to clean up and rest. You've been training all morning. I'm not tired. Luna protested, even as she yawned. Roman and Mia exchanged amused glances. How about a story, then? Roman suggested. While you rest. Just for a little while. Luna's eyes lit up. The story about how you and Mama met? We've told you that one 100 times, Mia laughed. I know. But it's the best one. Luna insisted. Because you fought the whole world for each other. And you won because you loved each other more than anything. Roman felt his throat tighten with emotion. Yeah, little wolf, he said softly. That's exactly why we won. They settled in the cabin, their home, expanded now but still humble, still grounded. Luna curled up between them on the large couch, her hybrid form slowly shifting back to fully human as she relaxed. Tell it from the beginning, Luna demanded, her eyes already growing heavy despite her protests that she wasn't tired. All right, Mia began, her voice taking on that storytelling cadence Luna loved. It started in a healing ward where a young Omega was grinding herbs. Roman watched his daughter's face as Mia spoke, watched her smile at the romantic parts, giggle at the funny moments, grow serious during the scary bits. She knew the story by heart. They all did. But she never tired of hearing it. Because it was her story too. The story of how she came to be. Of how her parents' love had been strong enough to change the world. And then Papa found us in the woods, Mia continued, her voice soft now as Luna's eyes began to close. Mama was crying because she thought Luna wouldn't survive. But Papa never gave up. He fought through magic and memories and an entire kingdom because he knew, deep in his soul, that we were worth it. Because love is the strongest magic, Luna murmured, her voice drowsy. The goddess said so. She did, Roman confirmed, pulling a blanket over his daughter. And she was right. Luna's breathing evened out, her small body relaxing completely as sleep claimed her. But just before she drifted off completely, she whispered something that made both Roman and Mia's hearts stop. Don't worry, Papa. When the bad man comes, I'll protect you too. Roman and Mia locked eyes over their sleeping daughter. She knew. Somehow, through her connection to the pack, through her inherited gifts, Luna knew that Cain was coming. And she believed she could protect them. We need to talk, Mia mouthed silently. Roman nodded. Once Luna was deeply asleep in her room, guarded by Ellie and 2 warriors outside her door, Roman and Mia retreated to their own space. She can't fight Cain, Mia said immediately. Roman, she's 5 years old. I don't care how powerful she is. I know, Roman interrupted. Believe me, I know. The thought of her anywhere near that bastard makes me want to level mountains. He paced the room, agitation rolling off him in waves. But Mia, we can't hide her forever. Cain isn't the only threat. There are still territories that reject the new ways. Still wolves who see Luna as dangerous. Still. I know, Mia said, her voice breaking. I know we can't protect her from everything. But Cain? Roman, he's ruthless. He's angry. He has nothing to lose. If he gets his hands on her. He won't, Roman said flatly. I'll die before I let that happen. That's what I'm afraid of. Mia exclaimed, tears spilling over. I'm afraid you'll throw yourself at Cain to save her, and I'll lose you both. I'm afraid Luna will try to use her powers to protect us and burn herself out. I'm afraid. Roman crossed to her, pulling her into his arms. We're not going to lose each other, he said firmly. Not to Cain. Not to anyone. We've survived too much to fall now. But what if? No, what ifs, Roman interrupted gently. We prepare. We plan. We trust in our pack and in each other. And we remember that we're not the same wolves who fought that first battle 5 years ago. We're stronger now. Smarter. More connected. He pulled back to look at her. And Luna isn't the helpless infant we were protecting then. She's growing into her power every day. Maybe Maybe it's time we trusted her to be part of her own defense. Mia's eyes widened. You can't be serious. I'm not saying we put her in danger, Roman clarified. I'm saying we stop treating her like she's fragile. She has gifts, Mia. Incredible gifts. And part of honoring those gifts is teaching her how to use them properly. How to protect herself and others. He cupped Mia's face. We can't keep her in a bubble. The goddess didn't give her this power so we could hide it. She gave it to Luna so our daughter could help heal and unite our species. And that means Luna needs to learn carefully, safely, but learn how to handle threats. Mia was silent for a long moment, her silver eyes searching Roman's face. You're right, she finally admitted. I hate it, but you're right. We can't protect her from the world forever. We can only prepare her to face it. Together, Roman said. The three of us. That's our strength. Our unity. Mia nodded, wiping her tears. Then we start training her properly tomorrow. Not just combat and healing strategy. Threat assessment. How to recognize danger before it strikes. Agreed, Roman said. And we coordinate with Liam and Zane. I want every approach to this territory mapped and defended. If Cain comes, and he will, we'll be ready. The attack came 3 days later. Not during the day when the pack was alert and active, but in the deepest part of night when even the most vigilant guards grew weary. Cain had learned patience during his time in exile, and he'd learned to be ruthless. The first sign of trouble was a guard's strangled cry, cut short before the alarm could be raised. Roman woke instantly, his wolf screaming danger before his conscious mind could process the threat. Mia, he hissed, already moving toward Luna's room. Get Luna. Now. But Mia was already ahead of him, her maternal instincts having woken her seconds before. They burst into Luna's room to find their daughter sitting up in bed, her silver eyes glowing in the darkness. The bad man is here, she said calmly. I can feel him. He's angry and scared and wants to hurt us. We're leaving, Roman said, scooping her up. Out the back. The safe tunnels. No. The roar came from outside, followed by the sounds of fighting, snarls and screams, and the clash of claws on armor. Cain had brought others. Council loyalists who'd been hiding, waiting for this moment. They're at all the exits, Luna said, her small face serious. They planned this, Papa. They knew you'd try to run. Roman's mind raced. If all the exits were blocked, if Cain had brought enough wolves to surround the cabin. Then we fight, Mia said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. We make our stand here. Together. Roman wanted to argue, wanted to find some way to get his family to safety. But Luna spoke first. It's okay, Papa, she said, her tiny hand touching his cheek. I'm not scared. The goddess told me this would happen. That I'd have to choose, hide my power or use it to protect our pack. Her silver eyes met his, and Roman saw something that took his breath away. Not a frightened child. A young alpha coming into her purpose. I choose to protect, Luna said simply. And her power exploded. Silver light flooded the cabin, so bright it was almost blinding. Roman felt it surge through the bond, not just to Luna, but to every wolf in their pack. Every warrior fighting outside. Every family member cowering in their homes. Luna's consciousness touched them all, and her message was clear. Stand. Fight. We are pack. The tide of battle turned instantly. Wolves who'd been overwhelmed by Cain's surprise attack suddenly fought with renewed strength. The connection Luna forged between them made them move as one organism, covering each other's weaknesses, amplifying each other's strengths. They became truly pack in a way that even 5 years of training hadn't quite achieved. Because Luna's power didn't just heal or unite. It awakened. Every wolf touched by her light remembered why they fought. Not for territory or pride or revenge. For family. For love. For the future Luna represented. Outside, Cain felt his carefully planned attack crumbling. And oh, he roared, his massive form tearing through defenders as he charged toward the cabin. You don't get to win. You don't get to take everything from me and just Roman met him at the door. The two alphas collided with devastating force, their clash shaking the ground, their fury making the very air crackle. "You took nothing from you," Roman snarled, his claws slashing across Kane's muzzle. "You destroyed yourself. You chose power over truth, control over freedom. This is your fault. I built that world." Kane screamed, his jaws snapping at Roman's throat. "I spent centuries creating order from chaos. And your brat, your abomination, tore it all down in seconds. Because it deserved to be torn down." Roman roared back. They fought with brutal intensity, neither giving ground, both driven by absolute conviction. But Roman had something Kane didn't. He was fighting for his family. And that made him unstoppable. He caught Kane's next strike, twisted, and threw the older alpha into a tree with bone-crushing force. Kane struggled to rise, blood streaming from multiple wounds, his breathing labored. "You can't kill me," Kane gasped. "You're too noble. Too merciful. You'll give me another trial, another exile, another chance to." "You're right," Roman said coldly. "I won't kill you." He stepped aside and revealed Mia standing behind him, her eyes blazing silver, the same silver as Luna's, the mark of the first wolf bloodline. "But I will," Mia said quietly. Kane's eyes widened. "You're an Omega. You can't." "I'm a mother," Mia interrupted, and power radiated from her, ancient, terrible, beautiful power that made even Roman take a step back. "You tried to kill my daughter. You attacked my pack. You refuse to learn, refuse to grow, refuse to accept that your time is over." She raised her hand, and silver light gathered around it. "The goddess gave me gifts," Mia said. "Healing, connection, compassion. But she also gave me something else, the ability to sever bonds, to cut away corruption that refuses to heal." Kane tried to run, but Mia's power was faster. The silver light lanced out, striking Kane in the chest, not killing him, but doing something worse. Severing his connection to the pack bond. Cutting him off from every wolf, every connection, every relationship he'd ever had. Making him truly, utterly alone. Kane's scream was inhuman. The sound of a wolf being torn from everything that defined him, everything that made him pack. He collapsed, writhing, as the severing completed. When he finally stilled, his eyes were hollow. Empty. Still alive, but no longer truly wolf. Just a shell. An animal. Nothing more. "That is the fate of those who reject unity," Mia said, her voice carrying across the battlefield. "Not death, but isolation. Separation from everything that makes us pack. From everything the goddess intended." She turned to the remaining council loyalists, the ones who'd followed Kane in his attack. "Choose," she said simply. "Accept the new ways and rejoin the pack. Or share his fate." Every single one of them dropped their weapons. Chose connection over isolation. Chose pack over pride. Chose Luna's vision over Kane's corruption. The battle ended not with death, but with transformation. As the sun rose over the battlefield, Roman stood with Mia and Luna, surveying the aftermath. Kane was gone, taken by neutral wolves to live out his days in complete isolation, unable to connect to any pack, any bond, any wolf. A living warning of what happened to those who valued power over love. The council loyalists who'd attacked were being integrated back into the pack, undergoing the same awakening Luna had triggered in the arena 5 years ago. And their own pack, Roman's pack, stood stronger than ever. "Is it over?" Luna asked, looking up at her parents with those wise silver eyes. "This battle is," Roman said, kneeling beside her. "But Luna, there will always be battles. Always wolves who resist change. Always threats to what we're building." "I know," Luna said simply. "That's why the goddess gave me this power. Not to make the world perfect, but to give wolves the choice. To help them remember what they're supposed to be." She looked out at the pack gathering in the dawn light. "Some will choose wrong," she continued, her voice carrying a wisdom far beyond her years. "Like the bad man did. But most will choose right. Will choose love and family and truth. And slowly, one choice at a time, we'll heal our whole species. Mia's tears fell freely. When did you get so wise, little one? Luna grinned, and suddenly she was just a 5-year-old again, not a prophetic vessel of divine power. I'm not wise, Mama. I just listen to the goddess. She talks to me sometimes. In dreams. She says she's proud of us. All of us. She looked at Roman. Especially you, Papa. Because you chose love over everything. And that's the hardest choice. The bravest choice. The most important choice. Roman felt his chest tighten with emotion so powerful he could barely breathe. His daughter, his beautiful, extraordinary daughter, saw him not as a failed king or a disgraced alpha, but as a hero. Because he'd chosen love. I'll always choose you, Roman whispered, pulling both Mia and Luna into his arms. Both of you. Over crowns and kingdoms and anything else the world might offer. You're my pack. My family. My everything. We know, Mia and Luna said in unison, then laughed. And standing there in the dawn light, surrounded by their pack, their family, their purpose. Roman finally understood what the goddess had been trying to teach him all along. That power without love was corruption. That crowns without compassion were prisons. That the truest strength came not from dominating others, but from serving them. 10 years later, Roman stood at the edge of a cliff overlooking the valley that had become the heart of their new society. Below, dozens of pack territories had merged into a confederation, not ruled by a single king, but governed by councils representing all ranks equally. Alphas still led, but they led through wisdom earned, not birthright given. Betas still served, but they served by choice, not obligation. Omegas still nurtured, but they were revered as the pack's heart, not dismissed as weak. It wasn't perfect. There were still disputes, still territories that clung to old ways, still wolves who struggled with change. But it was better. Infinitely better than what the council had built. Papa. Roman turned to see Luna, now 15, tall and graceful, her silver eyes bright with excitement, running toward him with a group of young wolves following. Papa, you have to come see. We've been working on a new healing technique, combining my power with traditional herbs, and it can neutralize silver poisoning. Even old cases. Roman smiled, his heart swelling with pride. That's incredible, little wolf. Show me. Luna beamed and started explaining the technique, her hands moving expressively, her passion for healing evident in every word. The other young wolves listened raptly, alphas and omegas and betas, all learning together, all seeing Luna not as a threat but as a teacher, a leader, a friend. This was the future they'd fought for. A future where rank didn't determine worth. Where love wasn't weakness. Where the goddess's true teachings guided instead of the council's corruption. Mia appeared beside Roman, her hand slipping into his as naturally as breathing. She's remarkable, Mia said softly, watching their daughter. She is, Roman agreed. But she's not doing it alone. Look. He gestured to the young wolves surrounding Luna, supporting her, learning from her, building on her ideas. That's the real victory, Roman said. Not that Luna has power, but that she's teaching others to use theirs. Not that we defeated the council, but that we created something better. Not that we survived, but that we're thriving. Mia leaned against him, and Roman wrapped his arm around her shoulders. 15 years since he'd found her in the woods. 15 years since he'd made the choice that changed everything. And he'd never regretted it for a single moment. Do you ever miss it? Mia asked quietly. Being the Alpha King? Having that kind of power? Roman was quiet for a moment, considering. No, he said finally. I don't. Because I have something so much better. He looked at Mia, at Luna, at the pack gathered below. I have purpose. Real purpose. Not ruling from above, but serving from within. Not commanding through fear, but leading through love. Not isolating myself on a throne, but being part of something bigger than myself. He pulled Mia closer. I have you. I have Luna. I have a pack that chose me not because they had to, but because they wanted to. I have a life built on truth instead of lies, on freedom instead of control, on love instead of hierarchy. His voice grew softer, more emotional. The council tried to take everything from me. They stole my memories, my mate, my daughter. They made me forget what mattered most. But in doing so, they accidentally gave me the greatest gift, the chance to choose it all again. To fight for it. To prove that love is worth more than any crown. Mia's tears fell, and she turned to cup his face. I'm so proud of you, she whispered. Of the alpha you've become. Not the one the council tried to create, but the one the goddess always intended. The one who leads with his heart instead of his pride. I learned from the best, Roman said, kissing her softly. You never stopped believing in me. Even when I'd forgotten you. Even when everything seemed hopeless. You held on to hope and faith and love. You saved me, Mia. In every way that matters. We saved each other, Mia corrected. That's what mates do. Luna called out to them, waving excitedly, and they walked down to join her and the young wolves. As Roman watched his daughter teach, as he listened to Mia's laughter, as he felt the pack bond thrumming with health and unity, he knew, with absolute certainty, that he'd made the right choice. Every time, every sacrifice, every battle, every moment he'd chosen love over power, it had been worth it. That night, as they settled into their home, still the humble cabin, though expanded now with rooms for visiting pack members, Luna asked a question. Papa? Mama? Do you think I did what the goddess wanted? Do you think I fulfilled the prophecy? Roman and Mia exchanged glances. The prophecy said you'd end my reign, Roman said carefully. And you did. The council's version of the Alpha King, distant, authoritarian, ruling through fear, that version died when you were born. But it also said you'd awaken the old ways, Mia added. And you have. Every day, more wolves remember what we're supposed to be. More packs choose unity over hierarchy. More territories embrace the goddess's true teachings. So, it's done? Luna asked. The prophecy is complete? Roman smiled. Little wolf, the prophecy was never about one moment. It was about starting a change that would ripple through generations. And that's exactly what you've done. He pulled her close. But your purpose isn't finished. Every day, you make the choice to use your gifts for healing and unity. Every day, you show wolves what's possible when they lead with compassion instead of cruelty. Every day, you fulfill the prophecy again. Luna was quiet for a moment, processing. So it's not about being special, she finally said. It's about choosing to be good. Every day. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, Mia confirmed. That's what makes you extraordinary, Luna. Not your power, though that's remarkable. Not your bloodline, though that's ancient and pure. But your choice. Your decision to use everything you've been given to help others. Luna smiled, that beautiful, bright smile that made Roman's heart ache with love. Then I choose to keep being good, she declared. Every day. For as long as the goddess needs me. That's my girl, Roman said, his voice thick with emotion. And as they settled in for the night, his family, his pack, his everything, Roman sent up a silent prayer to the goddess who'd guided them through darkness into light. Thank you. For Mia. For Luna. For the chance to become who I was meant to be. For teaching me that the greatest power isn't dominion over others, it's love for them. For showing me that real leadership means sacrifice. That real strength means vulnerability. That real purpose means service. I'll spend every day of my life honoring what you've given us. Protecting this pack. Teaching Luna. Loving Mia. Building the world you always intended. Thank you for not giving up on me. Even when I'd forgotten you. Even when I'd lost myself. Thank you for bringing me home. Epilogue. 20 years later. Roman's hair was streaked with silver now, his body bearing the scars of decades of protecting his pack. But his eyes were still bright with purpose. His heart was still full of love. And his family, grown now, but no less precious, surrounded him. Luna had become exactly what the goddess intended, a leader who inspired rather than commanded, a healer who unified rather than divided, a living bridge between the old ways and the new. She'd taken a mate 2 years ago, a kind beta warrior who saw her not as a prophetic figure, but as a woman, who loved her for her laugh, her passion, her terrible cooking skills that never improved no matter how much Mia tried to teach her. They were expecting their first child. The next generation. The future that Roman and Mia had fought so hard to make possible. Are you ready? Mia asked, appearing beside Roman as they prepared to address the Grand Assembly, a gathering of representatives from every territory across the continent. I'm ready, Roman said, taking her hand. They walked together to the platform overlooking thousands of wolves, alphas and omegas and betas, young and old, from territories near and far. All united under the principles Luna had awakened. All choosing, every day, to be better than their ancestors. 25 years ago, Roman began, his voice carrying clearly, I was the Alpha King. I ruled from a throne, commanded through authority, and believed that power was the measure of worth. He paused. I was wrong. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The goddess tried to teach me through my mate, through my daughter, through the prophecy I spent so long fighting, that real power comes from love. That real leadership means sacrifice. That the highest calling of any alpha is not to rule, but to serve. He looked at Mia. 25 years ago, I gave up a crown to save my family. And in doing so, I gained something infinitely more valuable, a purpose. A pack. A life built on truth instead of lies. He turned back to the assembly. Today, I'm officially stepping down from my role as alpha of this confederation. Not because I'm weak or tired, but because it's time. Time for the next generation to lead. Time for fresh voices and new ideas. Time to trust that what we've built is strong enough to continue without me. He gestured to Luna, who stepped forward with her mate beside her. My daughter will take my place, Roman announced. Not because she's my blood, but because she's earned it. Because she's spent 25 years proving that she leads with wisdom and compassion. Because the goddess chose her for this. The assembly erupted in cheers, not the forced applause of subjects honoring a king, but the genuine celebration of a pack honoring a leader they'd chosen. Luna looked at Roman, tears in her silver eyes. Thank you, Papa, she said softly. For everything. For fighting for me. For teaching me. For showing me what real leadership looks like. Thank you, Roman said. For giving my life meaning. For being the hope we all needed. For never letting the weight of prophecy crush your spirit. He pulled her into a hug, and Mia joined them, the three of them together one more time before Luna stepped into her full destiny. We're so proud of you, Mia whispered. So incredibly proud. I learned from the best, Luna said, echoing Roman's words from years ago. And as Roman watched his daughter step forward to address her pack now, he felt a peace he'd never known before. His work was done. Luna would carry the vision forward. The goddess's true teachings would continue to spread. And he could finally rest, knowing that the world he left behind was better than the one he'd inherited. That evening, Roman and Mia walked through the forest, the same forest where he'd found her crying in the snow all those years ago. Do you ever regret it? Roman asked. The pain? The suffering? The years we lost? Mia was quiet for a long moment. Sometimes, she admitted. I wish we'd had those 3 years. I wish Luna had been born into peace instead of conflict. I wish you hadn't had to fight so hard to remember me. She stopped walking, turning to face him. But Roman, if it had been easy, if the council had just accepted us, if there'd been no prophecy, no battle, would we have changed anything? Would Luna have awakened the old ways? Would thousands of wolves have found freedom? She cupped his face. Our pain had purpose. Our suffering created change. Our love literally transformed the world. And when I look at everything we've built, everyone we've saved, every life that's better because Luna exists. Her voice broke. I wouldn't change a thing. Because it was worth it. All of it. Every tear, every battle, every moment of fear. It was worth it to see this, to live in this world, to know our daughter will raise her children in freedom instead of oppression. Roman kissed her, deep and reverent and full of 25 years of devotion. I love you, he said simply. More than words can express, more than actions can show. You are and will always be the best choice I ever made. I love you too, Mia said. My mate, my alpha, my home. They stood there in the forest, in the place where their second chance had begun, and watched the moon rise full and bright and eternal. The goddess's light, the same light that had guided them through darkness, the same light that would guide their children and their children's children, forever. And somewhere, in a realm beyond mortal understanding, the moon goddess smiled. Her children had found their way home, not through control or domination or fear, but through love, the way she'd always intended, the way it was always meant to be. Oh my gosh, you guys. That was everything. Roman and Mia got their perfect ending. Luna stepped into her destiny, and the entire world transformed because one family chose love over power. I'm literally crying as I write this. Thank you so much for going on this journey with me. If you loved this story, please hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me your favorite moment. Was it when Roman first remembered Mia? When Luna awakened her power? When they defeated Cain? I want to hear everything. And if you want more stories like this, epic romances, powerful heroines, alphas who learn that real strength comes from the heart, make sure you're subscribed because I have so many more incredible tales to share with you. Until next time, remember, love conquers all, family is everything, and sometimes the greatest power is choosing to be kind. Keep believing in happily ever afters, beautiful souls.